The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT. I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Yes, guys, we're back once again. It is everybody's favorite late night boxing program, True School After Dark. It's good to be here. It's good to be seen. It's good to be in the presence of great people like yourselves. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching live and if you're watching the playback, thank you for tuning in as well. I'm really appreciative of everybody who continues to support the channel. And this is my first live as a 31-year-old man. You know, it was my birthday 3 days ago. So, you know, I did enjoy my birthday. I did enjoy my time with my family and friends and things like that. But yeah, you know, great to be here again. There's a lot going on in the fight game. There's a lot to discuss from, you know, all the latest and greatest in the 154-pound division. You know, you got Xander Zayas, you got Devin Haney, you got, you know, Keyshawn Davis, getting real talkative. So a lot to discuss there. You know, we are on the verge of Ryan Garcia Barrios fight week. So, you know, I am excited for that. I am going to Vegas on Monday, but I will not be covering the fight because they didn't approve your boy this time, but it's all good because I'm going right in the training camp with Angelo Leo. So I'm not really bothered either way. Like, everything happens for a reason, and I'm always a glass half full type of guy. So we have a great show planned for you guys. Zuffa Boxing's in the news. And yeah, just plenty of stuff to talk about in boxing. So make sure you guys do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like button if you're watching it live. Make sure you hit the like button if you're watching the playback, and definitely show that love and that support to True School Sports as we continue to pound that pavement on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We're less than 10,000 subscribers away, so I'm really excited about that, and I'm just really pleased and thrilled with all the growth over the years and all the great people we get to interact with on the daily here on True School Sports. But nonetheless, before we get into the talking points, because we got quite a lot of them, this might be a 2.5 hour live because there's quite a lot to discuss. But before we get into the talking points and all that blase, all that good stuff, let's take some time to acknowledge the fine folks that have already been in the comments and have made their presence felt. And let's show them some love and let's show them some recognition for commenting. So shout out to my main man, Al the Power. He says, what to do, Al the Power? Good to see you, champ. We got Jesus M in the building. Shout out to Jesus M. He says, saludos BT, saludos to you, Jesus M. And Jesus M also asked the question. He says, if Vaquero Navarrete has somewhat a bad performance versus Sugar Nunez, should he consider retirement and not be a stepping stone? That's a good question. I think for Vaquero Navarrete, it's actually interesting because I think whether he wins or whether he loses at some point in time, he's going to be used as a stepping stone because he's getting up there in age. There's been a lot of wars, right? Now, if he loses to Sugar Nunez, then of course Sugar Nunez could potentially use him as a stepping stone towards greener pastures and maybe even become the next star of Mexican boxing. But I actually think, and I'm going to put this out there right now, if Navarrete is able to defeat Sugar Nunez, I wholeheartedly believe that Rafael Espinoza is going to drop the WBO title at 126 pounds, and he will go to 130 pounds, and he will fight Vaquero Navarrete because Vaquero is a Zanfer fighter. Espinoza is a Zanfer fighter. That's Mexico versus Mexico. What better way for, you know, Espinoza potentially to, you know, continue building his name in the sport than to fight a guy like Navarrete? Because I'll tell you one thing right now, they don't want to fight Angelo Leo. They don't want that. And not even just that, all that aside, I just think that he's very big for the weight class. And anytime he continues to roll the dice and stay at 126, you're running the risk of being weight drained and not being your best. So I think there's a lot of marketable fights up there for him at 130, like Navarrete, like Nunez, like Venado Lopez. And I think either way you cut it up, slice it, and dice it. I like Navarrete. He's a great fighter, but I think his time is coming. So that's kind of where I stand on that matter. Hawker Mustang, shout out to him. He says his nickname is Dishonest Devin. I have heard some people call him that, you know, but shout out to you. Devin is chasing a Latino payday. There's Boots at 154, cherry picking the easiest. We'll get into that, man. I don't think Xander Zayas is the easiest guy at 54. And I think, you know, I have a lot to say about Jerron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, as I always do these days, because a lot of you guys putting too much stock in the Virgil Ortiz and Jerron Ennis, and they haven't really proven anything. They haven't done anything worth going crazy about. But that's my opinion. Now, anyway, let's get into it, man, because the majority of this live, the bulk of these talking points is going to be about Devin Haney. Listen, man, Devin Haney, a year ago at this time, a lot of people making fun of him, but he beat Brian Norman Jr. He's back in the pound-for-pound list. He's living large and in charge. And it's DEEBO Devin Haney's world, and we're just living in it. A lot of fighters want to fight DEEBO Devin Haney. So that being said, let's get into a talking point numero uno. Talking point number one. You got Xander Zayas responding to Devin Haney, saying that, because Devin got on Twitter. He started bumping his gums. He started flapping his gums, and he started saying that pretty much that, they say everything, but let's fight. And one thing about it is this. Xander Zayas, I know he's 23. I know a lot of people, they don't like him because they feel like he's just been built up by the machine to Top Rank, and fair play to anybody who feels that way. But Xander Zayas did not take too kindly to this, and he responded to it. So let's get into that, and let's dissect any and all things DEEBO Devin Haney. Now, go to screen share. So here we go. This is yesterday. This is yesterday on the mean streets of X, on Twitter. Make sure you guys go follow me on Twitter. Make sure you guys go follow me on X at True School Sports, because, I'll be on there, having fun, popping off, and just, talking crazy on there. So we have a lot of fun on there. But anyway, so here we go. So Devin Haney pretty much said, they say everything, let's fight. And that was in response to a fan's tweet about Xander Zayas, right? And obviously, Xander Zayas caught wind of that, and here's what Xander Zayas told Devin Haney. He stated the following, and I quote, "Relax, diva. My focus is on getting the third belt from Josh Kelly, but we already told your daddy," and he put daddy in all caps, "we already told your daddy if that doesn't happen, we'll be happy to put that one back on your record." So there you go. There you go. Xander Zayas is not pulling no punches. He's reminding Devin Haney of what happened to him when he fought Ryan Garcia. And, it sounds like he's more than willing, ready, able to fight Devin Haney. But, of course, let's be honest. They're not in the same weight class. Devin Haney just got to 47, right? Devin Haney just got to 47. There's big fights there for him at 47. You got, like, Conor Benn is there. The Ryan Garcia rematch is there, even though Devin Haney has ruled that out. And we'll get to that here in a second. You got Keyshawn Davis potentially moving up. Like, there's fights out there for him. But Xander Zayas ain't ruling it out. Like, he would love the Devin Haney fight, right? And Devin Haney, DEEBO Dev, he responded to that, and he said simply, and I quote, as we wait for it to load here, because I got all these tabs open on my computer to get you guys these illustrious and amazing talking points for this ever so amazing and important live transmission we have here on True School Sports. Devin Haney stated the following, and I quote, and it's going to load up right now. He said, basically, he had said that, and I quote, and this is a response to Xander's tweet, and I quote, "Our fight is bigger than Josh Kelly, and you make more money. Kelly is going to fight the winner of Boots and Virgil, so it looks like me and you should be next," right? So there you go. Devin Haney, he's looking for the biggest and best fights out there. Look, I'm no Devin Haney fanboy, right? I was, I wanted Brian Norman to win. I picked Brian Norman to win. I was the one running all over Twitter saying Brian Norman Jr. in 7 rounds or less, right? And he went up there and he won it. And Brian Norman Jr. People want to discredit Devin Haney's win and say that Brian Norman Jr. was green. They want to say Brian Norman Jr. wasn't that good. They want to say that all these things. But like I said, man, I was talking a whole lot before the fight, and I'm not one to switch up on what I was saying, right? Devin Haney won the fight. I feel like, in my opinion, he cemented himself as a future Hall of Famer with the win. He's a 3-division champion. He's right now the number 1 welterweight in the world, whether you like it or not. And one thing about Devin Haney, win, lose, or draw, one thing that he's done in his career is that he stepped up to the plate and he's been willing, ready, and able to fight the biggest, best, and available competition out there. And it's no different here when it comes to the subject of one, Xander Zayas, who is a unified champion, undefeated, doing his thing, showing the world how you're supposed to move and maneuver at such a young age. The same way Devin Haney, you could even say, when he was, around that age, when he was undisputed, right? So you give credit where credit is due. Now, funny enough, right, and I'll actually use this whole Xander Zayas thing to pivot into my other talking point because, I love Bill Haney. I'm a huge, if anything, I'm a bigger Bill Haney fan than I am a Devin Haney fan, to be honest with you, because I'm really fascinated by the managerial aspect of boxing, fighter development, why certain fights happen, why certain fights make sense at the right time, and why certain fights don't. I've always been fascinated by that. My whole time I've been a boxing fan, my entire life, right? And so when I see these great managers like Peter Kahn, like even a Rick Marigan, and like a Bill Haney, doing their thing, I'm very intrigued as to what makes these guys tick, right? And so Bill Haney, he went on Twitter yesterday, and he had a lot of choice words for not just Virgil Ortiz, or not just Xander Zayas, but just the Hispanic community in general. And I'm gonna play you guys. I'm gonna play you guys this clip because a lot of people have been asking me about this. They want to know what I think about this, so I'm gonna give you guys what I think about it here in a little second. But I want to refresh everyone's memory as to what Bill Haney said. I got the clip right here. So Bill Haney, he went on Twitter, he went on X, and he basically was saying that like a lot of the Hispanic fighters, whenever Devin Haney calls them out, he said that a lot of them become comedians and they don't really show that urgency to go ahead and fight. And a lot of people, one thing about boxing and any comments about race is, people get very up in arms. Now, for me, I'm not sensitive. Personally, I don't give a fuck if people make racist comments or what they perceive racist comments or not. I don't really care. But I just saw it as Bill Haney self-promoting and stirring the pot. One thing about Bill, one thing he's always been great at with his son and Devin Haney's career, he's always been good at self-promoting and stirring the pot and getting people to care and talk about and be interested in what Devin Haney has going on. So here's what Bill Haney said in regards to not just Xander Zayas, but the Hispanic fighters in general. Play the clip.
Is it me? Or is it every Hispanic or Latin fighter that DEEBO pulls up on starts to become a comedian? I mean, we started with Subriel Matias. I mean, he was on Jokey Joke, comedian time. Teofimo Lopez, comedian. Rolly Romero, comedian. Ryan Garcia, comedian. And not Xander Zayas, Jokey Joke. I'm asking the Latino community that represents so much in this boxing, when did everything get so Jokey Joke? And how long you gonna stand for that? They say everything except let's fight.
There you go. So Bill Haney doing what he does best, stirring the pot, and he's saying that a lot of these Hispanic fighters aren't serious about wanting to fight Devin Haney, and I find it very interesting. He mentioned Subriel Matias. Subriel Matias lost, so I get it. He's not really in position to fight Dev, but Dev didn't go and run the fight Subriel Matias, so you can't really use Subriel Matias in my opinion. But my thing is this. Okay, so now let's unpack, because see, when you start making comments about the whole Hispanic community, all the Hispanic fighters, you're now creating a environment where I can now criticize you if you don't fight certain Hispanic fighters in and around your weight. Now, personally, for me, I really don't give a fuck. I don't care if they're black, white, blue, Spanish. I don't care. Russian. I don't really give a shit about none of that stuff that most boxing fans care about. I really don't. But when you make those kind of comments, you now put the responsibility on yourself to fight any and all of those kind of fighters. So if we start at 47, Bill Haney has now put Devin Haney on the hook to fight Ryan Garcia in a rematch, right? I don't care if Devin Haney say he don't want to fight him again because Ryan punched him too hard. He got to fight Ryan Garcia. He got to fight Mario Barrios if he wins, right? Which, that's not really no crazy fight, but, Mario Barrios. Anybody who's Hispanic, that's not who you got to fight. And then even going to 54, you want to call out the Hispanic fighters. You're not putting yourself on the hook to fight Xander Zayas, Sebastian Madura, Virgil Ortiz, right? Why not Virgil Ortiz? Let's camp out there for a second. Let's camp out there because, and I want to give a shout out to my main man, 50 Gram. According to Boxing, right? Shout out to According to Boxing on Twitter. I really do enjoy his tweets. He keeps things very exciting on social media in the Twitter boxing community. He made a great point, because once you start talking about all these different Hispanic fighters and talking about how they're jokey, right? To use his words, you're now putting the responsibility on yourself to go fight all those guys, right? So to quote my man, according to boxing, he stated the following, and I quote, Bill Haney is looking for Hispanic fighters. Why not fight Virgil Ortiz next at Cowboy Stadium? Clash of styles. Hey, Bill, any jokes with this one? Yeah, he said a lot of names. He said Xander Zayas. He said T.O. He said Super Matias. I didn't hear Virgil Ortiz's name. Why don't we do that fight? Because, as we can see with Golden Boy Promotions, the Boots fight ain't happening next. And we'll get into that later on. But the Boots fight ain't happening next. But, grass is green, the sky is blue, and water is wet. So that's not really anything surprising here. Only delusional boxing fans ever believe that fight was going to happen. I told you guys for a while that fight ain't happening. But you guys want to – anyway. You want to call it the Hispanic fan base, you're not putting the responsibility on yourself to fight any and all top Hispanic fighters, right? So I don't want to hear about, oh, he punches too hard. Oh, he's too dangerous. Oh, he doesn't have a fan base. I don't want to hear those things. And I don't want to hear that fights don't make financial sense. Because I know Bill and I know Devin, they're shrewd businessmen. They're not just great fighters. They're not just great trainer and manager and all those kind of things. They're shrewd businessmen. But when you make these kind of comments, you open up a can of worms, and you got to be ready to absorb the entire can of worms, not just the part of the can of worms that you want. You understand? So shit. Virgil Ortiz is free, right? I know that Bill Haney and Oscar know each other, according to Bill, right? According to Bill and Devin and Oscar, in interviews that I've heard, they don't live that far from each other in the Vegas area. They know each other. They hang out in the same circles. They've done business with each other. So if you did business in the past and you know each other and you got that working relationship, then I don't really see why it's such a hard task to go ahead and make a Virgil Ortiz fight. He's free right now. He ain't fighting Boots. He's not fighting Boots. And, a lot of people, Ring Magazine, I think he's like the #1 rated fighter at Ring Magazine right now. He's, even without a title, Virgil Ortiz is widely regarded as the best fighter or one of the best fighters in the 154-pound division. Some people would even go as far as to say, even without a title, that he's better than Xander Zayas. So don't just, when you call out the whole Hispanic fan base, don't just fight the Hispanics that you want to fight, that you think you can beat. You got to now fight all of them. You opening up the whole can of worms. So I hope when Bill gets pressed about this in the coming days, weeks, and months, that he don't forget about good old Virgil Ortiz, because Virgil is free. Virgil ain't fighting no one. Virgil's not fighting Boots. Golden Boy just sent a temporary restraining order because they was trying to do the Boots Ennis versus Virgil fight without Golden Boy. They try to cut Golden Boy out of the deal, and they didn't like that. So he's free right now. All you gotta do is just talk to Oscar, talk to Rick Marigan, get some things right. You guys fought Jose Ramirez. He's managed by Rick Marigan, so I'm sure if you worked with Rick Marigan once, you can do it again. I believe in you, Bill. I believe in you, Devin. Go fight Virgil Ortiz. Go fight Virgil Ortiz, right? So that's my thoughts on that. I don't really care. You can fight anybody you want, black, green, blue, Hispanic. I don't give a damn. I'm just giving my thoughts on it, right? And then before I get to the comments, because I see I got a good amount of comments. Shout out to everybody here. Rock with your boy True School here at nighttime. Definitely hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. I want to also comment on this Keyshawn Davis situation, because Keyshawn Davis yesterday, he also took to Twitter. And he had a lot to say about Devin Haney and doing the fight. And there was a lot made of Keyshawn Davis moving up to 47 and fighting Devin Haney before Keyshawn Davis beat up on Jermaine Ortiz. And now that he's beat up on Jermaine Ortiz, I don't see why that fight can't get done next. So here's what Keyshawn Davis had to say about Devin Haney on Instagram yesterday. Here's Keyshawn.
Hey, I'm going to whoop your ass, so-called DEEBO. You know what happened to DEEBO at the end of the movie? He got hit with a brick. DEEBO might get hit with a brick. Talk some Latins and Spanish people. No, don't pick on them. Pick on me. Keep picking on Craig, and you're going to figure out what's going to happen. You're going to get hit with a brick. And I ain't playing. You know I ain't playing. Hit with a brick. Hey. belt, nigga. So organic, so genuine. Pick on me. I want you to pick on me. Tell DEEBO come this way. What you talking about? You know what Craig did to him.
So there you have it. Keyshawn Davis, one of the top fighters out there, one of the most skilled fighters in and around Devin's way. Yeah, sure, he only has 13 fights, but he's packed a lot into them 13 fights. He fought Nahir Albright. He fought Jermaine Ortiz. He fought Gustavo Lemos. He's already proven himself at the contender level. Beat Dennis Branchick for the world title. He's proven himself at a certain level already. He's ready for a big fight. With his amateur pedigree and the experience he's gotten in the gym and what he's packed so tightly into 13 fights, he's ready for a big fight. And they talk about this fight. And there's a lot of people out there, a lot of smart boxing minds out there. I know Tim Bradley, shout out to Tim Bradley. He's even talked about, the fact that he thinks Keyshawn Davis is more skilled than Devin Haney. This is a fight that's going to happen. So my thing is this: if you can't find a Latino out of all the gajillions of Latinos from 47 to 54 to fight, then you got to go fight the Christian YN, Keyshawn Davis. He wants to fight. I feel like Keyshawn Davis is I don't feel like, actually, I know everyone knows that Keyshawn Davis is one of the best fighters in and around this weight. So my thing is this: Devin Haney's now put himself back in a power position in the sport of boxing after the Brian Norman Jr. win, where he's in the pound list again. People want to fight him. He's very much in demand, and he's got a whole lot of options. So I don't think going to 54 right now should be in the cards for him. I respect the ambition. I'm not going to ever down him for the ambition. I do think he can beat Xander Zayas, but if you want to continue to prove yourself at the top level at the sport of boxing, I say honestly, don't look no further than Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis is a fighter that I feel a lot of people do believe is more skilled than Devin Haney because, just to break it down objectively, Brian Norman Jr., I still rate Brian Norman Jr. highly, and I think it's a very good win for Devin, and I give Devin Haney all the credit in the world for being Brian Norman Jr. But Brian Norman Jr. ain't as long as Keyshawn Davis. He don't have the pedigree of Keyshawn Davis, and Keyshawn Davis brings a different type of challenge to the table. So I think this is a fight that Devin Haney should really go ahead and look to explore. And like I said, Bill's a very smart man. He's a very good manager, and he understands timing. He understands when to take the right fights at the right time. And one thing I like about Bill is that Bill has done a great job over the years of surrounding himself with great boxing minds and being humble enough to listen to those great boxing minds like Mickey Bay, like is everyone, Al Mitchell, everyone he has in and around him. So I don't think he's going to fight Keyshawn Davis next. No matter how much they've been in the media and talking to Keyshawn Davis back and forth, I don't think he's fighting him next. Truthfully, I don't think he's fighting Xander next. I still think Devin Haney winds up fighting like either the Garcia Barrios winner and or Lewis Crocker, something like that. Because at the end of the day, no matter what anybody says, belts do matter, and belts, along with what Devin Haney's already accomplished in the sport, will give him leverage. And I do think that the play is going to be to try to become undisputed in the welterweight division, which would allow Devin Haney to now, be undisputed once again, and for the second time in his career, and I think build those fights up even more, and then I can see Keyshawn Davis, while Devin Haney is trying to become undisputed, maybe having a fight in the 147 division to get acclimated and then fight Devin Haney. You understand? So I'm rambling, but those are my thoughts. That's why I stand on those matters as it pertains to DEEBO Dev, Devin Haney. But anyway, let me go ahead and acknowledge some of the fine folks that are commenting, because I see a lot of you guys have a lot to say. My man Hannibal says, I don't like Keyshawn calling out Haney and then telling reporters that he wants Dalton Smith or Crocker next. I don't like it either, but I understand it, because the reality is that like Devin Haney and Keyshawn Davis, they're going to build the fight up. Beating a Crocker to get a title for either one of them makes the fight bigger, right? Look at Boots and Virgil, right? Look at Boots and Virgil, for example. Boots and Virgil's will fight that everyone wants to see, but there's nobody has a belt. So it's making it extra hard to get the fight over the line along with some other things. So I think that's the play. One of them is going to go try to get a belt and make the fight bigger, but I fully understand. Keyshawn ducked his biggest fight. Which fight was that? My man Alapao says the blacks ain't fighting each other. Tank, Shakur, Devin never fought. Only got like 2 each other. I mean, you said it, not me. You said it, not me, champ. I mean, if he miraculously beat Zayas in that scenario, by the way, easy work. Virgil put the fight on. I mean, yeah, I mean, Virgil's not fighting Boots. So my thing is, okay, they've done business, right? They've done business. Devin has done business with Virgil's manager. Around this time last year, Devin fought Virgil's manager, Spider Jose Ramirez. So if they did it once, they can do it again. I don't really see why they couldn't get it done. Do you remember they had the La Raza for Haney shirts? They did. And that's what I'm saying. Bill Haney is a great self-promoter. He's very good at getting people to care. So, you know, he will galvanize the Latino community when it benefits him, and he will push the right buttons also with the Latino community when he feels he needs to, and he's doing that here. So I'm not taking it offensively, and I don't think anybody should out there either. It's just business, and you know, it is what it is. But let me see. My main man, Paulie, right here. My man Paulie says Haney's pathetic. Even if he miraculously beats Zayas, he would immediately run back down to 147 instead of fighting someone like Boots afterwards. Even if Boots had a world title by then, I think Haney would fight Boots. A lot of you guys keep making Boots to be out this killer. Like I don't agree with your sentiment. Maybe I think Devin would fight Boots or Virgil. Like I feel like he's earned that. You guys keep making Boots and Virgil to be these killers, and they're very good fighters. Like I'm not trying to say they're not very good fighters. They are, but come on, man. Devin's been in there with some very good fighters, and you know he's reached a stage of his career where I don't think he'd have a problem fighting anyone. The numbers got to make sense. Boots and Virgil can't even stay active, right? Because they want everything to be perfect to fight each other in a non-world title fight. So I think boxing fans in the boxing industry is putting too much stock into Boots and Virgil, even though they're very good fighters. Neither one of them went undisputed at 47. Neither one of them has fought each other, and neither one of them has won a world title at 154 pounds. And you can't really say that the politics is against them, because when Virgil got into the division, Virgil was fighting these African fighters like Frederick Lawson. He had a couple tune-up fights against these African fighters that shouldn't even have been medically cleared to fight. And then Boots fought the Angolan animal Usima Lima when he should have been fighting Bakram. So it's like you guys are a lot of people are trying to create something that's not there. They're very good fighters. They still have a lot to prove. Devin Haney's proved himself. Like, you can love Devin Haney, you can hate Devin Haney. Devin Haney's proved himself against Lomachenko, against, Brian Norman Jr. in his first fight with no tune-ups. And you can say, oh, Brian Norman was this or Brian Norman was that. But Brian Norman Jr. at 147 is better than Frederick Lawson. He's better than Usima Lima. So I'm not really trying to hear it. My man said, why don't American black fighters fight each other? At one point, Tank, Shakur, Keyshawn, and Devin were all in the same weight class. I mean, I ain't going to make it a race thing, but I mean, as far as Keyshawn and Shakur, we already know what that is. The whole brother thing, which I've spoken on many times. Like, I don't like that. I feel like in boxing, nobody's really your brother if they're in your weight class, right? So I don't agree with that. Tank's got bigger problems outside the ring. He can't stay out of jail, so it's kind of hard to make any fights when you're going to jail. And as far as Devin Haney, I mean, I don't know. My man, Ratman says, get your mouth out of Haney's dick. It's not on Haney's dick. Listen, I'm not no Devin Haney fan. People accuse me of being a Devin Haney hater, which, whatever. If you feel that way, cool. I've been accused of being a hater of every fighter in boxing, which is what's going to happen when you call all these fighters objectively, right? But Devin Haney has stepped up to the plate. He's fought. You can't deny at this point. You can't deny it. Like you can't deny it. And at some point, you got to give the man just a little bit of credit, even if you don't like him. But anyway, speaking of Devin Haney, right? I wanna actually segue a little bit here. Make sure you guys smash that like button, super chat, all that blase. What was that one? So I wanted to touch on this a little bit, right? Because Devin Haney, right? We all know that we're on the brink of, Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios fighting each other in Vegas. Starting on Monday, it'll officially be fight week for Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. So obviously, a lot of boxing fans out there, if Ryan Garcia does what he's expected to do against Mario Barrios and defeats him as the favorite to become WBC world champion, that obviously sets up the scenario of not just a rematch between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, but also making it a unification rematch, which makes it even that much bigger, because now, rather than it just being a big event, rather than it just being a fight that has bad blood and history, it's actually a fight that becomes significant for the welterweight division, as half the belts will be on the line. And in my humble opinion, if Ryan Garcia is to beat Mario Barrios to become world champion, I think Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney becomes the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, right? So obviously, it's a very intriguing potential matchup. But Devin Haney, he's not going for that. He's Xing it out. He's saying, no, this fight will not be happening. Do not expect it to happen. He said, and I quote, "The ship has sailed" when Ryan Garcia dropped out of VADA testing. Now, I've heard reports that Ryan Garcia is being tested for this fight. It's a WBC World Championship fight, right? And I know that you have to, if you're ranked in the top 15 of the WBC rankings, you have to do VADA testing, as it is part of the WBC Clean Boxing program, a program that's been involved in the sport of boxing for almost a decade now, right? That being said, I gotta say it like this: I don't condone Ryan Garcia, quote unquote cheating. But my thing is this, man. Like we in a gladiator sport, so you got to get it back in blood. That's why I respect Deontay Wilder, right? Because Tyson Fury, there were a lot of accusations thrown his way, and a lot of people thought he cheated Deontay Wilder and that he was the beneficiary of a long count from Jack Reese. And Wilder, all this stuff Devin Haney's doing, saying I don't want to fight him because of this and that. I know Wilder still I know he's still saying that Tyson Fury cheated, and that's his conviction, and that's his place to stand on that if he wants to. And he's even challenged Tyson Fury to sue him for defamation of character. So he really believes in what he's saying, right? But I respect Wilder because Deontay Wilder tried to go in the ring and put his hands on the man that he feel cheated him out of his own greatness. So I don't gotta agree with Wilder, and you don't gotta agree with Wilder either. But you could admire, the stance he took. And I feel like, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, y'all made millions together with that in that fight. Y'all fought in the amateurs plenty of times. I've seen a lot of those amateur fights on YouTube. The reality is, I feel like, look, Devin Haney didn't lose to Ryan Garcia because of cheating. He lost to Ryan Garcia because he was getting hit with the same punches he was getting hit with when he was an amateur. If you go back and you watch the amateur fights, Devin Haney couldn't defend Ryan Garcia's left hook then when they were kids, and he couldn't defend it when they fought. Now, if he wants to, if he feels that punch was landing because he cheated, cool. I feel like, you know what? Okay, negotiate the fight. Get all the others involved. Get WADA, VADA, USADA. Do whatever you got to do, and put a beating on Ryan Garcia, because I feel like the way I feel is this: you may have your O back on paper, which is cool, and you can erase that. But one thing you're not going to erase is what people saw. And unfortunately, people always have that memory of what happened when you fought Ryan Garcia. And if you don't get it back in blood, if you don't try to get it back in blood, especially after the fact that Ryan Garcia has lost to Rolly Romero. Like, Rolly Romero did what you couldn't do. It's going to unfortunately be a blemish on your record. Even if you do go on to become undisputed and beat all these great fighters and beat pound for pound and even become a Hall of Famer, it's still going to be there. It's still going to be talked about. So I don't like him doing that. I really don't like him doing that. And maybe I'm wrong. You guys can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But if they're fighting for a WBC world title, he has to be VADA testing because it's part of the clean boxing program. So unless there's something that I'm not getting here, and you guys can feel free to correct me in the comments, I don't even think what he's saying is factual because it can't be factual because Ryan Garcia has to be in VADA. Every fighter in the top 15 of the WBC rankings has to be involved in VADA testing. And if he's not, then okay. But I don't think that's true. But we'll see. What do you guys think? What do the fine folks on True School Sports think? Let me go to these comments. BT, did you get Boxing Team's report about Garcia missing the WBC 14-day weight check? What are your thoughts on that? I've read about it. I saw conflicting reports about it. If he did miss the check, then it could be a bad sign. I watched the interview that he did with Mike Coppinger, and I'll be honest, I didn't like what I saw as far as his demeanor. Like he seemed very fidgety. He had a lot of anxiety. I don't know. I didn't like what I saw. It's kind of a red flag, but we'll see. We'll see on fight night, and we'll see on fight week if what I saw in that interview holds true. Could be a bad sign. We'll see. By the way, Devin Haney fought Prograis and Norman, 2 black fighters, and both were his biggest paydays. I agree. Like Devin, listen, I'm not no massive Devin Haney fan. I'm more of a Shakur Stevenson guy, but he stepped up to the plate and he's been fighting people. Like, Ryan was never in 365 VADA, and Devin is claiming he dropped out. He's enrolled with WBC in clean during training camp. Ryan was out of VADA May 2nd to December 2025. Okay, well then how? Okay, well if he's fighting for a WBC world title, he's in the VADA. He has to take VADA testing now. It's part of the WBC clean boxing program. So okay, so if what you guys telling me is true, basically what Devin Haney's fearful of is that Ryan Garcia, in that time that he supposedly wasn't in the in VADA testing, that he cycled off, and there might be a repeat of what happened last time. Which okay, that's fair. I can't fall down for that. But my thing is, look, man, go back and watch the amateur fights. He was getting hit with the same punches in that fight as he did when he fought in the pros. So, there's just technical things that he never corrected that are always going to be there. VADA or no VADA. VADA won't save him from a left hook. He needs to correct that in the gym with his dad and his great team and Mickey Bay and them things. But that's just my opinion. He can do whatever he wants. It's his prerogative, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, even if he goes to the Hall of Fame, as long as it doesn't bother Devin that people are going to bring up the fact that Ryan Garcia put a beating on him, and he never went to go get it back in blood, then if he's okay with that, then that's his prerogative. But it's going to get brought up, and if he's okay with that, then move along, go fight whoever you want to fight. Lame excuse. If Ryan is being honest, very doubtful. He has zero reason to trust VADA. What's wrong with other drug testing agencies? Look, man, I got my own opinions on VADA. I don't want to really get too deep into it because certain things I can't share. But it's like I really feel like fighters at that top level that have the money. So I'm talking about fighters that have already touched, 7-8 figure paydays and have the money to pay for testing. Okay. I feel like you should get all the ADAs involved. Get all the drug. Like if you really want to make sure that a guy is clean and it's that bothersome to you, don't just do VADA. No. Don't just stop there. Do VADA and USADA. All right. Pay for both. Get them on one accord if you got to, because I've talked to people in the fight game about their opinions on VADA, and I've got mixed results. I'm not going to say no names. But I'll give you an example. I know of a fighter, right? And I won't say his name, but I know of a fighter who fought in a world championship fight, right? And he wound up losing a world championship fight. And then that fighter's team had requested the VADA results from Margaret Goodman for the opponent that he lost to. And Margaret Goodman would not give the fighter the results of what happened, right? So that was kind of fishy. And I've just heard mixed reviews about VADA, right? And VADA works in conjunction with the WBC, and the WBC themselves don't have the squeakiest reputations, right? And we know Victor Conti played a role in the VADA testing, right? So I'll just leave it at that. I don't think VADA is the gold standard. I used to think that back in the day, but as time and experience and talking to different fighters and trainers, I feel like there's loopholes through all drug testing agencies. So my thing is, if you really want to make sure, and you have the means, if you have the funds to make sure that your opponent is clean, if you can get VADA and USADA involved, I feel like you should just get them both. Get all the ADAs involved. Don't just get one. Don't just get the one that you have a hard on for. Get all the drug testing agencies involved. That's how I feel. What's up, BT? Excellent fights coming up this week. Navarrete Nunez is next week with Ryan versus Bar. Yeah, man. Boxing is going to start heating up, so I'm really excited for this time in the sport. The Haney's won a 360 testing, which is why Ryan is jumping out of testing period if he knows the fight demands testing. Okay, well, then Devin can go do what he wants to do. But all I'm going to say is this, right? I just hope that he's okay with people bringing up the fact that Ryan put a beating on him. And if it doesn't bother him, then just move on. But people are going to bring it up. That's all I'm going to say. Great fighter. On the pound list again. He's undisputed, lineal, former champion, all that blase. But if people are going to bring it up, so as long as it doesn't bother him and he's okay with it, then fair play to him. But you know what? The crazy thing is, what I'll say is this about Devin and Ryan. Devin may not have to worry about Ryan Garcia because it's very possible Mario Barrios might beat Ryan Garcia, and then boom, you have a potential unification fight with Devin and Mario Barrios, and they got history. They go all the way back to 2017, 2018, sparring at Virgil Hunter's gym over there in Hayward, California, right? And mind you, you got to remember Bill Haney and Virgil Hunter, they're like this. They have a lot of respect for each other. So that's a fight that if Mario Barrios comes out victorious, that's a fight that I think will happen very, very fast. In fact, I'll get on record and I'll say it right now here on True School Sports. If Mario Barrios comes out victorious against Ryan Garcia, that will be Devin Haney's next fight. You don't got to worry about Keyshawn Davis. You don't got to worry about Xander Zayas. You don't got to worry about none of that. He's going to fight Mario Barrios because of the history there, the amount of respect that both teams have for each other and that kind of thing. And let's be real, like Mario Barrios, they're going to look at Mario Barrios as an easy fight, as a guy that, they can pick off a title from, a WBC title from at that. So that's the other caveat to all this. You understand? He said, every single day in boxing takes a little bit more of your innocence away. I don't believe anything in boxing anymore. This is very true. This is exceptionally true. The deeper you go, talkers, as you know, because I know some of the I know a lot of the people that you're familiar with because there are a lot of the same people that I'm familiar with, right? And every day you get deeper and deeper into this fight game and the fight industry, and you realize just how dark and sinister and how much of what's presented to you, the public, isn't really the truth, so you get it. Anyway, shout out to my main man, Osiris in the building, one of my favorite Twitter accounts to observe when I'm on Twitter feeds. He says, no way Devin versus Ryan is off forever. Yeah, I don't really believe it. I don't really believe that because really and truthfully, like that, Devin Haney loves money. All right. Bill Haney loves money. They are shrewd, very smart businessmen. One thing they do, or one thing they don't do, I should say, is leave money on the table. The Haneys do many things. They talk a lot, they take tough fights, but they don't leave money on the table. And they're not about to start now. They wasn't doing it back then. They're not going to start doing it now. So I'm with you, champ. Shout out to my guy right here. He's with the super chat. Shout out to you for the super chat. He says, Kerr said he's not fighting Ryan if he is not tested too. Well, there you go. Okay. Well, look, all these fighters are taking that stance against Ryan. We'll see how Ryan complies if he does beat Mario Barrios. Listen, I know Mario Barrios isn't highly regarded. I don't really regard Mario Barrios that highly, if I'm being honest with you. But they fight the fights for a reason. I'm a firm believer of they fight the fights for a reason. So he has to get through Mario Barrios first. But we'll see how it goes. Shakur Stevenson, in my opinion, honestly, I don't think he's going to 147 if it's not for a world title. That's just my opinion. Like, I know it's prize fighting. So Conor Benn is a big money fight in the UK. That's a fight that will build the Shakur Stevenson brand in the UK. Ryan Garcia has a casual fan base, right? So I get those are like brand building fights. But truthfully, like if Shakur Stevenson is who I believe him to be, which is, he used to always have that hashtag on Twitter, hashtag chasing greatness. He wants to chase greatness, right? And I don't think he's going to go to 47 unless it comes with that possibility of doing what less than 10 fighters in the history of boxing have done, which is become a 5-division world champion. So unless there's a belt on the line, I don't think Shakur Stevenson is going to 147 anyway. And any talk about him versus Conor Benn or Ryan Garcia, I feel like it's just hype and I feel like it's just talk. Not because he's scared of them. I think he would fight those guys. But I think that, there's business for Shakur to handle at 35 and 140 pounds equally. But, we'll see how it goes. He's taking that stance, so shout out to him. That's what he feels. Shout out to JW says, I'm not sure if you saw a Charlo interview, but what do you think of Mel saying he would have just stayed on 54 instead of fighting Canelo? I don't really concern myself too much what Jermell Charlo says these days. I like Jermell Charlo, but come on, man. He did what he felt was best. He took the Canelo payday, and I'm not going to sit here and think that he would have passed up on that Canelo money to stay at 154 pounds, right? Because truthfully, if he wanted to stay at 154 pounds, he could have either paid Bakr Murtazaliev more step-aside money and then fought Tim Tszyu, right? Because that was a fight that people talked about at one time. And or he could have just fought Bakr Murtazaliev, who was mandatory. But, of course, he didn't do that because the Canelo-Alvarez fight offered him more money than he could have dreamed of in his life. And he's been boxing for a long, long time, right? So I don't put no stock into it. Just being honest. But anyway, let me see. What's the next talking point? What's the next talking point? Did I miss anything in regards to Devin Haney? Yes, I did. All right, let me camp out on this right quick because we're almost an hour into Devin Haney, and then we still got other things to talk about. So make sure you guys go ahead and smash that like button if you're here. Definitely subscribe, super chat, all that blase. It is, in fact, the untouchable True School Sports empire, and it is, in fact, the True School era, and it's great to be here with you guys once again. Next talking point is this. We'll swing it over to the UK for here for a second because you got the newly crowned champion, the fighting pride of Sunderland, Josh Kelly. He's not being quiet. He's making it very known what he wants. Obviously, we know that. Hold on, this stupid thing. Punk ass StreamYard. Hold on. StreamYard has this stupid feature now where it's like now you got to actually put the banners to, have the timer off because now they got timers. But nonetheless, Josh Kelly, right? And we'll go to screen share. Hold on. Wrong one. Where is it? Right here. Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly calls out Devin Haney and Xander Zayas for a fight in Sunderland. Now, before I go to screen share, Josh, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Xander Zayas nor Devin Haney, maybe Haney, because Haney's gone to Australia before, but that was because that was the chance to become undisputed. Kambosos had something he wanted, so that's why he put himself in that position in the first place. He ain't going to Sunderland for one title, right? I'm calling a spade, but nonetheless, let's go to screen share for what Josh Kelly had to say. So here's Josh Kelly. Now, Josh Kelly stated the following, and I quote, I would beat both of these guys at the Stadium of Light. All right, Xander Zayas, real Devin Haney. Don't be swerving the guy who just beat the most avoided, right? And you know what? To Josh Kelly's credit, these guys, Jerron Ennis wasn't trying to fight Bakr Murtazaliev. Virgil Ortiz damn sure wasn't trying to fight no Bakr Murtazaliev. They weren't trying to fight Bakr Murtazaliev. So in that regard, Josh Kelly has earned the right to talk shit about beating, the most avoided guy in the division, right? Now, like I just told you guys, he's not going to go. Those guys are more likely not going to Sunderland of all places. I mean, if they were going to go to the UK, I could see them going to like London, if it was a big fight in London, because London's a big city. But they ain't going to no damn Sunderland. Sorry, Sunderland FC. Sorry, Stadium of Light. That's not going to happen, right? So that being said, more than likely, I think the outcome for Josh Kelly is for him to fight Xander Zayas, New York City, Puerto Rican Day weekend, big time crowd. I'm even thinking the big room because I think Xander Zayas has graduated. I think what's happened with Xander recently is he's graduated in this last year from prospect to contender to champion to unified champion, and now he's becoming a star right before our eyes. And a lot of people don't like that about Xander Zayas. They're pissed off that Xander Zayas is so well managed and top rank, and Peter Kahn does such a great job to put him in this position. They wish their fighters, were like that, but they're not. So that being said, Xander versus Kelly at the big room makes a lot of sense because you're talking about Xander Zayas coming off of 12,000 plus tickets sold in Puerto Rico, roughly 300,000, 400,000 homes in Puerto Rico TV wise, off the Super Bowl appearance with Bad Bunny, right? Becoming a star. He's starting to fit those shoes slowly but surely that were left behind by Miguel Cotto as the next face of Puerto Rican boxing, right? And, British fighters have a long history of traveling to the UK. British fans have a long history of traveling to the UK. Now, of course, I don't expect Josh Kelly to bring out the amount of Brits that Anthony Joshua brought out when he fought Ruiz, or Prince Nassim when he fought Kevin Kelly, or anything like that, or Ricky Hatton back in the day when he fought, in New York City as well, or even in Vegas, right? So I don't expect that. But UK versus Puerto Rico in New York City always makes sense. And it's a 3 billion vacation, so there's significance there. And I do think, this is my opinion, I do think Peter Kahn and Top Rank and all the fine folks there are going to get Josh Kelly to come to New York City and fight in the unification fight. So I respect the confidence of Josh Kelly. I'm happy to now see Josh Kelly on this level because he was one of the guys that, 8-9 years ago when he first came out as a prospect, and I was talking about him when he was 5-0. I liked watching him a lot as a prospect, and then he fought the David Abnesians of the world and, fought some European level guys and didn't look so good. So it's good to see him get on this level because there was a question for a long time if he'd ever be on this level to begin with. But they're not coming to the Stadium of Light, Josh. I'm sorry to break it to you. Maybe if Josh Kelly wants to fight and have his dream fight in Sunderland at the Stadium of Light, I think the better route is going to be to pick somebody in the top 15, to pick somebody that's not a big name, that doesn't have the leverage and the commercial value of a guy like Devin Haney and or Xander Zayas. If you want your fight in Sunderland, it can't be against, Haney or Zayas. Now, maybe like a guy like, I don't know, if I go to the rankings, maybe a guy like Brandon Adams, right, who I'll talk about later on because he's very relevant. Listen, man, Brandon Adams, a lot of boxing fans are saying that these guys don't want to fight Boots. They don't want to fight Virgil. They don't want to fight, certain guys. I'll tell you one thing right now. Brandon Adams will fight any of these guys. If you really want to make a fight happen, go pass a contract to Brandon Adams because he'll fight anybody, right? I'll tell you that right now. I know Brandon Adams personally. Look at his career. Look what he's done in his career. Look who he's fought. If Kelly wants to fight in Sunderland, I guarantee you Brandon Adams will take the fight. So if you want to fight in Sunderland, stop calling out Haney. Stop calling out Xander. Call out Brandon Adams. And the same thing goes for Boots, right? Because Boots is not going to fight Virgil next. If Boots wants to fight someone while he's waiting for Virgil, he can call out Brandon Adams too. I bet you if you pull that card, Brandon Adams will fight you. But you know what? These guys don't call out Brandon Adams. Want to know why? Because Brandon Adams isn't a sexy name. Brandon Adams will fight you, and Brandon Adams is a hard fight. So they're not going to call him out. But I digress. Anyway, let me go to these comments. My guy on Osiris says, Josh Kelly is trying his best to pretend like Boots doesn't exist. I agree. I mean, now Boots is free, right? Boots is free. He did sign a contract. I understand his position. Like, you beat the man in the division. You beat the guy that Boots refused to even try to fight. So, you don't necessarily got to go fight Boots, but you did sign a contract to fight him. He is still a very big name. There is value in Boots. So, look, if you can't fight Zayas, which I think that fight's going to happen, but if you can't fight Zayas, right, and you can't fight Devin Haney, right? Because you're not going to be Devin Haney's first option, right? Then you got to go fight. You should try to fight Boots. But if it's really, like I said, if it's really that big of a priority for Josh Kelly to bring a world title fight to the Stadium of Light where the Sunderland FC play in the Premier League, then the guy to fight, in my opinion, is Brandon Adams, because he's a #1 contender. Brandon Adams doesn't have the leverage these guys has, and Brandon Adams will fight any one of these guys. These guys is doing a good job of acting like they're tough and acting like, you know, everyone's scared of them, right? You're not calling out the right people. You're not calling out the right people. Call out Brandon Adams. Go send him a contract and watch what happens. Watch how fast a fight gets done. What are your thoughts on Spence versus Zoo? Do you think the near layoff will be good or bad for Spence? I think it's a fun fight. I think it's a good fight considering where both guys are at. You know, we don't know what to make of Spence because we haven't seen Spence since Crowder put the beating on him. And Tim Tszyu has had a lot of tough fights recently. So I think it's a fun crossroads fight. Personally, I don't think Earl Spence really wants to box like that. I think he's doing this out of pride, but you know, it's good to see him try to come back and at least continue his career after his first and only loss of his career, because I feel like you don't really know how great a fighter is until he has to really bounce back from a loss, and to this point he hasn't tried. So good on him for getting back in the ring. Shout out to my guy Chris. He says Xander is good, but he's arguably the weakest champion of 154. I think Kelly should beat him straight up. I don't think that at all. I think that's crazy talk. How can you say he's the weakest guy in the division based on what? He's the one beating the really tough guys. Like, listen, if you leave it to Virgil and Boots, they would never fight the guys Xander fought. As crazy as it sounds, everyone always talks about like Xander and who Xander doesn't want to fight or who Xander's not fighting. Boots and Virgil will never fight the guys Xander fought. Boots and Virgil will not fight Abbas Barrow or Jorge Garcia Perez or any of them guys. They won't. Because look who they fought. Look who both of them have fought in the 54 run so far. You know, Brandon Adams will beat Agyako next and become the IBF mandatory. He'll end up winning a world title. I listen. He's a dangerous fighter. That's one guy that I really want to see like achieve something in boxing, because he really has to earn everything he gets in the sport. And you know, like I said, you brought up a great point, and I completely forgot about that. So thank you for bringing it up, talkers. Brandon Adams already has a fight scheduled, I believe, in April with Kalmi Agyarko. You know, the Black Irishman, the man who's trying to become the first Black Irishman to become a world champion. You know, I didn't even know they had Black people in Ireland until Kalmi Agyarko. So he put me on game. I learned something new about the world because of Agyarko. But if he beats him, like, you're right, he becomes a mandatory challenger, and I think the stage is set for Josh Kelly to bring Brandon Adams to the UK and get his dream fight in the Stadium of Light, which is what I think his priority is. You know, no matter what anybody says about Josh Kelly, I think Josh Kelly's main priority actually is unification. I don't think it's Boots either. I think his main priority is to fulfill his dream of fighting in the soccer stadium, in the football stadium, the Stadium of Light, where his favorite team plays. Which for a lot of these British fighters, that's what they want to do. When they win a world title, one of their dreams is to fight and defend a title at the stadium of whatever the favorite local football club is. So in Tony Bellew's case, Goodison Park, up the Toffees. In Kell Brook's case, you know, Bramall Lane, the home of Sheffield United. And the list goes on and on and on of fighters that have always wanted to fight in where their favorite teams play. Tyson Fury, even for a time. Tyson Fury, you know, he wanted to fight at Old Trafford where Manchester United played. So when you talk about these British fighters, right, when they win a world title, that's always like something that's on the forefront of their mind. And Josh Kelly's no different. Brandon Adams low-key made Boachuk irrelevant. Nobody really mentions him anymore. That is a feat. That's what I'm saying. That's why Brandon Adams is one of my favorite fighters in the 154-pound division. Like, he really is. I mean, he has been for quite a while, because I respect fighters that you know, I respect fighters that have to really get it out the mud. Because one thing that I'm learning about boxing, and one thing I've really come to understand about boxing fans and what they respond to, for the majority of boxing fans, what I'm learning is that It's the pampered, overhyped fighters that they love, right? And I'm gonna name them for you, like your Boots and your Virgils, like them. Them guys are pampered and overhyped and overrated, right? And boxing fans have a hard on for them. But the guys that don't really have the backing of the promoter, that have to take tough fights, I respect those guys because they can't afford to lose a fight, and they don't have the luxury to fight Usima Lima and make millions of dollars. So when they become champion, it just hits a little different, right? So that's why I respect Brendan Adams. You mentioned Sergey Bohachuk, a guy that also fought Virgil Ortiz, right? And I would say that in both Bohachuk fights, Brendan Adams beat Bohachuk more definitively than Virgil Ortiz did. He knocked him out in the first fight when he was down on the cards, and then in the second fight, he outworked him and threw a bunch of punches. So he beat him in two different ways, and he beat him in better fashion both times. And to me, so that puts Brendan Adams at a certain standing in the 154-pound division. That's what I'm saying, and I'm glad you said it because I've been saying this for a while. Boots gets left out of all the title fights because he takes the easy route, and his fan base, especially the people here on YouTube, they're okay with that because they feel like everyone's actually ducking him. But there's plenty of fighters in every weight class that if you were to really call them out, if you were to really send them a contract, they would fight your ass at the drop of a dime. You guys ain't really trying to fight those guys because you want everything to be perfect, because you've been maneuvered a certain way your whole career and you're used to that. Shout out to my guy, Hook Like Berlanga. He says, that's a great name, by the way. Bohachuk should be pushing for a Callum Walsh fight. He's been on his undercard twice now. It's crazy. He doesn't feel disrespected. Yeah, I mean, and he's Zuffa. He's a Zuffa boxing fighter, so I agree. I definitely agree. He should be pushing for that fight. I mean, he's probably not going to get those fights that, against the big names, because that most of the time, if you're a Zuffa boxing fighter to begin with, you're not going to get those big fights to begin with any damn way. That's why they say politics runs boxing. And exactly. And that's why people like me, I always say, a fighter is only as good as his team. So if a fighter is in a tough predicament, I mean, every fighter is different. Not every fighter is dealt the same cards. Some fighters get the red carpet rolled out for them. So when they get the red carpet rolled out for them, it takes an incredible amount of work for their team to screw it up. But believe me, there's fighters that have an easy road and their team still screw it up. Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz are two great examples of that. And then you get fighters that literally don't have anything going in their favor, like Brendan Adams, like, Bakram, like, Angelo Leo, like, and plenty of fighters, right? So a fighter is only as good as his team, and some fighters got to work extra harder to stay at the top. Now, there's reasons why people like me get mad at Boots, because he took the easy route and he shot himself in the foot by putting himself behind the 8-ball fighting Wasim Aliyev, but he was okay with it because he was okay getting paid a bunch of money to fight a guy that he knew couldn't fuck with him. But that's his cross to bear. That's his problem, not mine. But anyway, let me see. Did I get through all my my Zayas? I think I did. My Zayas, all my Haney, all that good stuff, all that blah. So yeah, we'll get to Boots and Virgil stuff here in a second. But shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button. Shout out to all 46 of you here on the Untouchable True School Sports Empire, True School After Dark. Let me know what city, what state, what continent you guys watch from. I want to see how international we are on the broadcast, and wherever you're at in the world, much love and thank you for joining. But Talker says Isaac Lucero will fight for the WBA regular title in March or May, and this will fight him. And you know what? I like that fight. I'm actually not against that fight. Obviously Isaac Lucero is not Virgil Ortiz. He's not on that level, but he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. I know Bob Santos. I swear to God, man, Bob Santos. I had some great conversations with Bob Santos at the WBA convention on and off camera, and he's high on Isaac Lucero. He really feels like Isaac Lucero can beat these guys like Virgil Ortiz, even like a Jaron Ennis. And I believe that, like you said, he's in fact the regular title. I believe that when that fight, if Lucero does his job and handles business and wins that fight and gets in position, and Boots takes that fight, they're gonna take that fight. And that'll be a chance for Isaac Lucero to really announce himself to the world, because Jaron Ennis right now is one of the most popular fighters in American boxing. So that'll definitely be something to look out for. We got Northern Alabama in the building. Shout out to Northern Alabama. Long Island in the building, Strong Island in the building. Shout out to Long Island. I was just out in Long Island last month. Shout out to the fighting folks in Long Island. Great Neck, Hempstead, just the whole Nassau County, Long Island in the building, Northern California, the Bay Area, Sacramento, Oakland, Hayward, just the whole Northern California. I love Northern California. DC, got DC in the building. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, home of the Winnipeg Jets, Kyle Connors, Connor Hellebuck, Team USA. Shout out to Winnipeg. Well, what else we got here? Phoenix, Arizona. Yes, I love Phoenix, Arizona. Home to some of the most beautiful Mexican women in the world. Shout out to Phoenix, Arizona. DC in the building. Shout out to Lamont Roach. Shout out to the whole DMV area. We got Spain in the building. Shout out to España. Santa Ana, California, the home of Alexis Rocha. Yes, shout out to Santa Ana. I got a couple friends out in Santa Ana. Shout out to Santa Ana. Alex Fitzmaurice, the big payback. Broward County, the place where True School Sports was born and built. Shout out to the whole South Florida, Broward County, Dania Beach, Pembroke Pines, Weston, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, Lauderhill, the whole Broward County. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But anyway, let's switch gears here for a second, guys, just real quickly, or maybe not so quickly, because I might need to really camp out on this for a second, because a lot of people want to get my opinions on this, and I've been getting asked about this, in YouTube videos. I've been getting asked about this on Twitter. I even got a couple of Facebook messages and Instagram messages about it. So a lot of people want to know what I got to think about this. So for those that know, and for those that don't know, Jaron Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz isn't happening. It's been blocked by Golden Boy Promotions because Oscar De La Hoya has filed a temporary restraining order on Rick Marigan and Virgil Ortiz himself, because apparently they were going to do the Boots Ennis fight. They had agreed to do the Boots Ennis fight, and they were going to cut Golden Boy out of the deal, right? Which Oscar says is a breach of contract. So he filed a temporary restraining order, which effectively means that the fight is blocked, and the fight that boxing fans thought they were getting is not happening next, which is not to my surprise, because like I said, Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis, it is the most overrated fight in boxing, and Virgil Ortiz's team is a big part of that. They can't get on one accord. The promoter is suing the manager. So look, if I'm Team Ennis, if I'm Eddie Hearn, it's time to get proactive. You can't be sitting there waiting for Virgil. Isaac Lucero was mentioned. Go fight him. Go fight Brandon Adams. Go fight someone. Don't just sit there waiting for Virgil, because you already wasted enough time with Lima. I'm not surprised, and it is another domino falling. And what I believe the outcome of this division by the end of this year is going to be ultimately Xander Zayas with all the belts. And a lot of people hate that I say that. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but I mean, like I said, a fighter is only as good as their team, and then you have to also have a fighter who has the ambition to be great. And so the beautiful thing about Xander in his career, and they're showing the whole boxing world, Xander, Peter Kahn, and Top Rank are showing the boxing world how it's done at the highest level. You got Peter Kahn taking the right fights at the right time, along with Top Rank, and you got Xander Zayas, who's ready, willing, and able to step in with the best fighters available to him, right? And that's what it is. So that being said, I think Xander's going to be undisputed at 54 by the end of this year, barring him outgrowing the weight class. And a lot of people are going to be very, very sick. But I digress. Let's get to Boots and Virgil, because there's a lot to speak on. There's a lot to talk about. As you guys can see right here, it says right here. So we'll put it full screen for you guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Okay. So Tom Brown, the fine folks at TDP Promotions, they were the ones that told Golden Boy, that told Oscar and the brain trust at Golden Boy that they were planning on doing a fight. So it says right here, and I quote, Golden Boy says that Tom Brown of TGB Promotions, the promoter of PBC events, informed them on February 11th that Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing, who we know promotes Jaron Ennis, was planning the Ortiz-Ennis bout for April 18th in Las Vegas. After hearing that, Golden Boy asked for an emergency temporary restraining order against Ennis on February 11th, right? So therefore, they were trying to, Ennis and Matchroom, and you got to say Virgil too and Regan, because it takes two to tango, it takes to negotiate. But Ennis, Virgil, and all parties involved, they was trying to cut Oscar out of the deal, which in Oscar's defense, right, that is a breach of contract, because if you have a promotional agreement with a promoter, you can't just cut them out of the deal when you feel like it. That's whether you love it or hate it, that's how those exclusive contracts work. If you sign with a promoter, whether it be Golden Boy, Matchroom, Top Rank, whoever, you got to negotiate in good faith alongside your promoter. You can't just cut them out the deal because you want to, and that's what was happening here. So that's why a temporary restraining order was going to happen. Now, Virgil, I think, has his career is in some deep shit. Just being honest, I feel like Boots' career is actually in a more positive state than Virgil's, because when you don't have your promoter and your manager on one accord, there's lawsuits being thrown out there, potential litigation that could take place if this shit really gets ugly. You're talking about a fighter now being stalled out of some time in his career, losing valuable time in his career. And that's never a good thing for the fighters. And when you got a fighter like Virgil Ortiz, who's exciting, that people want to see fight, that's not a good thing either. So I do feel for Virgil. I don't like that what's happened in the career of Virgil Ortiz. I'm a fan. I love watching Virgil Ortiz fight, and I'd much rather see him in the ring. So, he's going to lose some time, in my opinion. He's going to lose some time in the ring. Really, when you get down to it, it's really funny, right? It's really funny what's happened to Virgil, because if you guys remember last year, in and around this time, Virgil was offered the fight with Xander Zayas. And it was Virgil who turned the Xander Zayas fight down and went and fought Madrimov. And I was talking about this yesterday, because the clip's right here, right? He went and he fought Madrimov, and you guys know how I feel about Madrimov. If you want to accuse me of being a Madrimov hater, I will wear it loudly and proudly, because I don't really think much of Madrimov. I think Madrimov was very overrated. I think a lot of the boxing fans and the powers that be, you guys put too much stock into Madrimov because of what he did in the amateurs. He's declined since his pro debut. He's probably one of the only fighters in boxing where you can say his best win is his pro debut, and it was against Vladimir Hernandez. And ever since his pro debut, it's been a steady decline, right? So here's what I said yesterday. I said, and I quote, "Them tables have turned quick in less than a year on Virgil. Fighting Madrimov was such a waste of time. I can't believe people actually put stock in the Madrimov. He just feints you to death without throwing anything of consequence. And Madrimov actually has power, right? It was Virgil telling Xander Zayas that I got bigger fish to fry. Like it was gonna do something for his career. Now look at him. Now look at Virgil. Look at him. Them tables turn quick. And now Xander is the man of the division. And now you, and I'm talking about Virgil, you might be on the shelf. And I hate to see it. I hate to see that, because I like Virgil, but you might be on the shelf. So this is what I'm saying. In this game, you gotta stay humble. You gotta stay humble at all times, because life comes at you fast. And like I said, you didn't want to fight Xander then. You fought Madrimov. You thought it would do something for you. And guess what? It did nothing for you, right? Madrimov is probably going to fight Boots next, right? I think Boots is probably going to fight a guy like Madrimov, because he's fought Virgil, right? He fought Virgil so that they can compare opponents. He's been a former world champion. And people actually think Madrimov is on that level, like he's this great fighter. But he's not. And he beat Magomed Kurbanov for a vacant title. And, Boots will beat him, and people will argue about who will beat, Madrimov better, like they always do in boxing. But I can't really say, like, I don't like what's happening to Virgil, but I don't necessarily feel bad for him, because I have a long memory, and I remember when Virgil told Xander Zayas, I had bigger fish to fry, like fighting Madrimov meant anything. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that when it comes to Virgil Ortiz. But anyway, let me go ahead and get to these comments. Shout out to everybody here. Talker says the last thing people want is going to court. Then everything comes out. That's why Fury paid off Big Mick Hennessy. I pray that this goes to court and it all comes out, that people will see how poisonous this game is. I guarantee everyone here is at fault. They've all hidden the bodies. I mean, yeah, listen, the the rabbit hole runs deep. The rabbit hole runs deep, and oftentimes it's not the fighters. Like I'll be honest, I don't think it's Virgil himself, but I also think that Virgil is ridiculous because he was kind of getting behind these ridiculous things that Rick Morrigan was probably telling him, like fighting Madrimov meant anything, and he was being very cocky last year. So I had to just get out there and say it. But yeah, it's sad because I think, what is it, next month? Virgil's going to be 28 years old next month, and he hasn't won a world title yet, and he's been in 140, 147, 154. Like, his career is becoming very Jaime Munguia-esque, even though I think he's a much better fighter than Jaime Munguia. That's what I'm saying. And like my man J-Dub says, Virgil was talking crazy to Xander last year, and now he's probably not even the B side. The dude might be the C side to Xander Zayas because they underestimated Xander Zayas and the power of Peter Khan in Top Rank. And look how fast some tables turned. Xander done gapped everyone in the division, and they all the B side now. Virgil has had another time out the ring with the illness injury. This is just another example of his career being disappointing. 3 divisions, 28 years, multiple lawsuits, 0 world titles. So it's unfortunate, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And yeah. Let me see. I know I missed quite a few comments. Oscar knows that Boots is going to destroy his golden goose. I think, listen, I think I don't think really either side wants the fight to happen. I don't think Eddie wants to put Jaron Ennis in there with Virgil Ortiz, no matter how much he flaps his gums. And I don't think Golden Boy and Rick Morrigan want to put them in there either. I think it's on both sides. I don't think it's one side or the other. You know? But I digress. In the meantime, like I said earlier, Boots, and I'll go to the rankings for this. Boots, this is my call to Boots now. You know Virgil ain't fighting you. I don't want to hear about who's not fighting you. I don't want to hear about this and that. I'm sick of it. I've had it up to here with Boots and his bullshit. All right? Talented fighter. Love watching him fight. All right? I'm frustrated. I've had it up to here. You want to fight? I know Brandon Adams is fighting an eliminator fight, but you're still a star. Press for that fight. I challenge Boots to press for that fight. And if Brandon Adams don't take it, then you could say, you know what? Then maybe Brandon Adams and his manager, what was the guy's name? Mark Habibi. Maybe you could say they're ducking you. But until then, I think that's the fight right there. That's the fight, because Brandon Adams will fight anyone. But I digress. I've spoke my piece. I've said what's needed to be said, and we're gonna see. Anyway, let me see. What's the next talking point? Okay, so just getting off Devin, getting off of Boots, getting off Virgil, all that stuff. There are other things going on, guys, in the fight game. There are other things to talk about and other things I do want to touch on. And you guys know that you guys know my favorite weight class in the fight game in boxing is the featherweight division. You know, a lot of fighters in the featherweight division I'm interested in. And believe it or not, guys, one of my favorite featherweights in the world, one of my favorite featherweights in the world. I would even go as far as to say it was one of my favorite fighters in boxing. You know, he hasn't fought a whole lot since March of 2024. A lot of these featherweights, they're not going to pick this guy voluntarily. So guess what? This guy had to go a different route. This guy had to go the Zuffa boxing route. And I'm happy to report, and I'm happy to talk about, and I'm happy to speak on the fact that my main man, 50 grand, Bruce Lee, Uzbekistan's very own, Otabek Komatov. He signed with the fine folks with Dana White in Zuffa boxing. And really and truthfully, I feel like this is the best thing for Otabek Komatov. Now, look, Otabek Komatov was a guy that, you know, before he ever fought Raymond Ford, before he even went to the UK and won the eliminator fight, I remember seeing him when he was like 3-0 at Warriors Gym. I done seen him put damn near over 100 rounds of sparring in the gym. Man is a monster, right? And obviously he had that 2024 fight of the year with Raymond Ford. Ford beat him in the 12th round and came from behind. And I give Ford, I'll always give Ford his just due for that, because that's a fight that people don't want to take before then, and people don't want to take after, and he beat the guy. So I can't ever take that away from Ford. But I still think he's one of the best featherweights out there, irrespective of the loss and lack of activity. I know that's not on him. I wanted to see Odebek. I wanted to see Bruce Carrington fight Odebek before like Bruce Carrington fought Carlos Castro. I wanted to really know how good Bruce Carrington was, and I wanted Top Rank to make that fight. But Brad Goodman, Bruce Champler, they're smart. They know these fights are dangerous, and they move Shushu very, very carefully. And congratulations, they got him to the world title. Mission accomplished. But anyway, let's go to Odebek Komatov because he hasn't really been seen or heard from much. And this is the news. So Dan Raphael reported on it yesterday on his Twitter and in his on ESPN.com. Says right here, it says 7 months after its ESPN contract expired on July 31st, and still with no media partner, struggling Top Rank is not nearly as aggressive as it typically has been when it comes to signing or keeping talent. Not only did the company lay off some employees in recent weeks, but it has also parted ways with 2 contenders. According to sources, former featherweight title challenger Odebek Komatov, 13-1 with 12 KOs, 27 years old, of Uzbekistan, was released and has, in fact, signed with Zuffa Boxing. And also Las Vegas junior lightweight Andres Cortez has had his contract recently expired with Top Rank, not offering an extension because it simply has no events to put him on. So, guys, this is what's happening with Top Rank Boxing right now. They don't have dates, they don't have a network, they don't have a platform, so they're trimming a lot of the fat. They're either outsourcing fighters that are more of their priority to other promoters' cards, right? Or B, fighters that they don't have as a priority, they're just outright not offering them extensions and releasing them. And in this case of Odebek Komatov, who was a top contender, and Andres Cortez, who's an undefeated top contender, they've done that with them. Now, going back to Odebek Komatov, I spoke on this yesterday, right, on Twitter briefly, right. I had tweeted this yesterday on my personal account, and I'm getting a bit more active on there. I had stated yesterday, and by the way, go follow me if you don't already at True School Sports. I'm on there quite a lot. Listen, Odebek Komatov is still one of the best featherweights out there, and these guys are not going to voluntarily pick him, and he's got to stay active, right? And he's 27 years old. He's still right there at the peak of his powers. I would love to see this is a guy that I think the fight game needs to see more of, because I'm going to tell you this, and this is just my opinion. Like, Raymond Ford beat him fair and square, but this is my opinion about that fight. I think Odebek Komatov made a very stupid move. I would even say it was a borderline retarded move to get rid of Timur Bragimov before that fight, because he went out there and trained with Joel Diaz, who trained a lot of the Uzbeks like Merjan and Beck Bully and them guys. And I feel like it took away from the Odebek Komatov that I've seen in the gym. Timur Bragimov really had him firing on all cylinders, and I think he put himself at a disadvantage going into that 4 fight. And the man who was destined to win won that fight, but I still think he could show even better. And I think one of the steps that he could take to show better would be to fight on Zuffa Boxing frequently. I want to see Odebek Komatov fight, 3-4 times a year. That's what the fight game needs, because when this man's at his best, when he's dialed in, when he's locked in, this is a guy who is long, who's rangy, who punches hard with both hands, who's athletic. He's a nightmare. He's a dangerous fighter for anyone in the featherweight division. I would even include my boy Angelo Leo, and you guys know what I think he's the best featherweight in the world. In fact, I know he's the best featherweight in the world, but I would even say him, right? That's how good Odebek is, right? So this is a guy that not only do I think this is great for him signing with Zuffa Boxing, because I feel like Zuffa Boxing was created for guys like him, because let's be real, guys, there was plenty of fights for Odebek Komatov Top Rank could have made over the years, like with Ruben Villa or Bruce Carrington, right? Venado Lopez. There's plenty of guys that Top Rank has had that they could have matched him with, and he couldn't get those fights because they don't want to fight this guy because he's dangerous and he don't speak English, and there's not a lot of money in fighting him. So under the current structure of boxing, he was never going to get the benefit of the doubt unless he was mandatory challenger. But under Zuffa Boxing, he will actually get a chance to, box often. And I'm telling you right now, Zuffa Boxing, Dana White, Skip, the staff there, the matchmakers, everyone there, I'm telling you right now, you get Odebek Komatov 3 or 4 fights on Zuffa Boxing, I don't give a fuck who is against. This guy is going to break out and become one of the stars of Zuffa Boxing. They've had a lot of success in the UFC promoting these, these Central Asian, and Russian fighters. And I think they can do the same thing as Zuffa boxing, because there's a lot of boxing fans, and there's probably a lot of people that don't even like boxing that much that will become boxing fans just because of Zuffa boxing. And this is, I'm telling you right now, this guy is going to be one of the stars of Zuffa boxing, because I don't care if he lost to Ford. I give Ford his due, but in my eyes, in terms of skill, ability, talent, punching power, boxing skills, pedigree, all that, this is one of the top featherweights in the world. And the fact that you didn't see Top Rank put Bruce Carrington in there with him, or any of the other guys that didn't have belts, it actually shows you what he is, which is a very dangerous man. Because Arnold K. Guy is much like Komatov in the sense that, yeah, he don't speak English and there's not a lot of marketability, but Arnold K. Guy has never had a hard time fighting fights, because Arnold K. Guy is not on that level. Arnold K. Guy is a very basic high guard fighter who don't really got no otherworldly skills. His best skill is taking an ass whooping. That's why Rafael Espinoza picked him for a fight. You understand? So sometimes you know how good a fighter is by what doesn't happen to their career, rather than what does happen to career. Than what does happen to their career. And for me, Oderbek Komatov, one of those guys, and I still maintain belief that he is one of the top featherweight contenders in the world. And a loss to Raymond Ford in the 12th round where he blew his knee out doesn't change that for me. My man said, I saw a report by Fight Fan Club. I'm done on Boots, bro. I said enough on Virgil. Odebeck. What about Odebeck? Oh man, see, look, there you go. You just named the fight right there. I think right there you get Odebeck Komatov in a fight. Just a fight to knock the cobwebs off, because he hasn't boxed. He's only boxed one time since the Ford fight, and that was in March of 2024, which is going to be 2 years next month. So I feel like you get him one fight on Zuffa, let him do his thing, let him get a win, and then after that, boom, you could have your inaugural Zuffa boxing featherweight title fight. You got Omar Trinidad versus Odebeck Komatov, which for me, I'd be very, very intrigued about, because Omar Trinidad's coming off a very good win against Max Ornelas. Omar Trinidad has had some fights, where he hasn't looked the best, right? And Komatov has fought at a higher level, higher pedigree. He's the better fighter, like on paper. But, he was a better fighter on paper against Ford and couldn't be Ford, right? So my thing is, that's an interesting fight. And that's a fight as a fight fan that I would get very excited about. That's a fight where Omar Trinidad would have to go, if it got signed, Omar Trinidad would have to go to another level in his training camp and really be his optimum best to beat a guy like Komatov. And then boom, he can become the first Zuffa champion, or Komatov can become the first Zuffa champion. And then right there, I think the winner of that fight gets into the position to potentially become one of the first inaugural stars of this whole Zuffa boxing era. That's how I'm looking at it. How do you feel about Zuffa cutting down on the number of boxing divisions? How do you think it'll affect the fighters? True. Well, it's already had an effect if you've watched some of the cards. There are certain fighters in boxing that, believe it or not, are tweeners. There's a lot of fighters in boxing that do belong at 130 and 140 and 122 and these kind of weight classes in boxing. That's why they were created in the first place. But they don't have those. They're going with the original 8 weight classes. So certain guys are gonna have a hard time. I think it's very important that fighters that fight in those weight classes, that their teams be very, very particular about their weight cuts and things like that, and get the right people to make sure that they have good weight cuts so that they can make these weights easier. But I like where their heart is at. For the average Joe Blow on the street, they don't know what the hell is a cruiserweight, what is a bridgerweight, what is a super featherweight, right? So they're making it very simple for the casuals, and I like that aspects about it. I think he just needs to improve his defense. Odebeck took some bad shots in the 4 fight. He did. No, he definitely did. I'm not saying that he's this unbeatable fighter. Like, he's got holes like a lot of Uzbek fighters do, and he has a lot of the same problems that a lot of Uzbek fighters have. But like I said, defensively leaves things to be desired. I will definitely acknowledge that, because those things were exposed in the 4 fight. But I'll tell you this: got one of the top jabs in the division. Has a very good work rate. Dangerous man. Listen, there's a reason why he couldn't get fights after he lost to Ford, because you would think after Ford stopped him in a really good fight that guys would be flocking to fight him, that they would have saw holes that they could expose, and they weren't, you know. Did you watch the Chris Mannix interview with Chris Mannix? I did. I did. I mean, Suleiman, listen, Mauricio Suleiman's going to do what he does best. Shout out to Chris Mannix. He did a great job. I have a video coming out on that really soon, so I'll speak more on that later. But yeah, I did see it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Komatar versus Ford for sure, or Komatar, I should say. My man Cigar says Kane Sandoval was a guy that I thought was perfect at 140. At 147, he just didn't have that same pop. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like a guy like him who was at a 40-pounder, you know, he may have to look at, okay, either A, if I go to 35, maybe I gotta really buckle down on my nutrition, get the best nutrition as you can, right? And if not that, then I think, you know, if you're gonna go up in weight, you're going to have to do a bit more strength training and prepare yourself to adapt your style going up in weight. That's really the fight within the fight for a lot of these tweeners, a lot of these guys who fight at 122 and 130 and these super and junior weight classes in the current structure of boxing. So, yeah, that's my take on that. Shout out to my boy Joel. Listen, I'm still going to be here. I still got what? 1, 2. I still got like 3 talking points I got to run through, and then you know me, I'm probably going to sit here and talk my ears off because I haven't gone live for a couple of days. You know, been getting ready because Monday I'm flying out. Monday I'll be in Vegas, and then you know, not too long after that I will be going straight into camp with Angelo Leo, so I'm really excited about that for this Rais Salim fight. That being said, just been taking some time off, like a couple of days off. I went and I enjoyed my birthday. So if any of you guys want to show some late birthday love, feel free to super chat. But yeah, I'm going to be here for at least, I would say 50, probably another hour. I said at the beginning of the live that I would be here for at least 2.5 hours, and we're at the hour and 40-minute mark already. And I don't even feel like I've gotten out of first gear. You know, this coffee has me wired up. So it's good to be here, champ. Good to see you. But anyway, make sure you guys smash that like button. I'm going to pivot into my next talking point. I want to actually talk about my main man, probably, I would say, for my money, my favorite light heavyweight in boxing. You know, I like Bivol. I like Beterbiev. But my favorite light heavyweight in boxing in terms of style, and the guy that I really want to see just break through in the next year, is my main man, Atif Overton. You know, he's slated to fight on the Claressa Shields Franchon Cruz Dessert undercard later this month, and I'm over the moon about it because this is a guy that I know Rick Glazer. I have Rick Glazer on here. Rick Glazer don't think much of Atif Overton, but I do. I think Atif Overton, if he gets the opportunities, if he continues to stay active, you know, I know he just signed a deal with Dimitri Salita, who is a polarizing figure in the boxing industry. But if Salita does right by Atif Overton and keeps him active and gets him in position to fight for a world title in conjunction with Marshall Kaufman and King's Boxing and all them guys, then I think Atif Overton, there is zero doubt in my mind, he will become a light heavyweight world champion. In fact, yesterday on Twitter, I made a post and I asked people the question, and you guys can feel free to ask this question in the comment section down below. I said, and I quote right here, as you can see, I said, interesting question. Who's your top 2 favorite fighters in boxing that aren't well known yet, and why? And then the 2 answers I gave were, of course, you know, the man that I don't know what happened to him. We talk about him here often to keep his name alive because, you know, I don't know what happened to him. But my main man, Yugo Osaki, the guy that really is supposed to be he's supposed to be the future face of Japanese boxing, but they want to hate my boy Yugo Osaki and deprive him of opportunities. So shout out to the fine folks at all-star boxing and all them. But I said Yugo Osaki was one of them, and I said Atif Overton was the other. Now, there's other guys like Ian Green and Lawrence Newton that I also wanted to name. I love those guys. I think they're one of those guys too. But the top two guys I thought at that time of that tweet was Yugo Osaki and Atif Overton, because I said that Yugo Osaki, I feel, at his best, and I'm talking about if he gets the fights, if he gets afforded the opportunity to stay active, I feel like he got the frame, the skill set, the size, the speed, the power to be a world champion from 108 pounds to 118 pounds. So I think he could be a 4-division champion, honestly. And as far as Atif Overton, I look at him as not just a future world champion, but the next great light heavyweight in Philadelphia fighter, right? That's what and I've always thought that's not a new thought here. So I say all that to say this, Atif Overton will be back in action in a matter of 1 week from now against the battle-tested Joseph George, all right? And this will be out there in I think they're fighting in Detroit, right? I think they're in Detroit on the Clash of Shields card against Franchon Cruz Dezern, and he's the co-main event, right? And this is going to be actually an intriguing fight, because when you look at Joseph George and you look at Atif Overton, right? Overton, when you look at his record, 14-0, 12 knockouts, you watch him fight, he's got all the skills, all the speed, all the punching power you'd want, the swag. Like he's one of those characters that only a sport like boxing can produce. And he hasn't really fought anybody too crazy yet. Like he fought, I would probably say his best win was in January of 23 when he beat the undefeated tough Russian Artem Brusov, right? I probably say Artem Brusov was probably his best win. And then he beat what's left of Vaughn Alexander, right? Because Vaughn Alexander is at a stage of his career now where he's just being used as whatever. Like he's not the Vaughn Alexander from even 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But he stopped him in 1 round. So to me, that's somewhat of a statement to get him out of there in 1 round. So he's taking on Joseph George, right? Joseph George is a guy that, 13-1, 8 knockouts, not the most skillful guy in the world, but this guy is strong. He can punch. He can really, really punch. I remember he had that really fun fight back in 2020 during the pandemic. He fought Marcos Escudero, who I'm very familiar with because Marcos Escudero was a tall, long, rangy Argentinian fighter. He was training in South Florida, and he was getting outboxed in that fight, and Joseph George actually knocked him out cold. That was actually probably one of the most vicious knockouts of 2020. And since then, he hasn't had too many fights since that fight. He's only fought 3 times since that fight, and he's 2-1. He lost to Raiko Santana, who many of us know beat up on Steve Nelson recently. So he fights Atif Overton with a chance to take his O and put himself back on the map. And I think it's actually a solid fight on paper. He's 36 years old, so I would say this is going to be one of his last potentially big opportunities in the pro ranks. So best of luck to him. It'll be a good fight. Now, Atif Overton is expected to win, and let's go to the light heavyweight rankings and let's look at what could be what Atif Overton is on the cusp of, because you look at him right now, Atif Overton's 14 in the IBF. He's 5 in the WBA. He's not ranked in the WBC, and he is not ranked in the WBO. So conventional wisdom will lead me to believe that he's going the WBA route. And you got some really interesting fights for him. You got guys like, Najee Lopez, another good young American fighter. That would be a crazy fight. Like Atif Overton, Najee Lopez, that would be an insane fight. And they're both kind of in and around the same stage of their career. Najee's fighting Manuel Gallegos soon. Step up fight for him. Atif's fighting Joseph George soon. Step up fight for him. That could be one for the future. But you got him. You got Leron Richards. You got Joshua Buatsi, Liam Cameron. You got Albert Ramirez, who's the interim. Benavidez. I mean, I'm telling you guys, he's one of these guys that him, Najee, Imam Katayev, Morel, a lot of these guys. Even a guy like Juan Carlos Carrillo, who people don't even know like that yet, but who's a very good fighter, Colombian, Olympian, been in camps with Benavidez, crafty guy. There's a lot of really good fighters in the light heavyweight division. And I would say, for me, for my money, like when I look at Najee Lopez and his step-up fight with Manuel Gallegos, and then I go ahead and I look at what happened. Am I froze, guys? Can you see me? Hold on, my camera got messed. All right, my bad, guys. Let me know if you can hear me. I don't know what happened to my computer. My computer webcam stopped working, so I'm gonna do the lesson live from my phone. But thank you guys for sticking with me. The 31 of you that are still here. What I was trying to say is I'm looking at Atif Overton and Atif Overton's fight against Joseph George, and then Nigel Lopez's fight against Gallegos. I'm looking at it as the real beginning of the new era of light heavyweight, because Bivol and Beterbiev are not going to be here forever. Inevitably, these guys are going to have to leave the division and make room for the new generation. And I feel like Atif Overton and Najee Lopez, along with a guy like Ben Whitaker as well, like my man up here mentioned, because Atif could fight Ben Whitaker. And I think that would be a crazy fight in terms of build up, in terms of personality, in terms of style. That'd be a crazy fight. I'm looking at this as the new era of the light heavyweight division. So yeah, I'll close my talking point on Atif with that. You know, really excited for him and all that good stuff. Shout out to my guy. He said, "Happy late birthday." Yes, that's right. Shout out to everybody here. Yeah, man. 31 years young, getting better, getting more handsome, and just progressing little by little. Let me see. What other talking points do I got left? What else I got? Oh, I got this one right here. So I'm gonna go with this right here. We're gonna go to screen share. Go to screen share because very important, very important topic here to discuss in the sport of boxing. We're gonna go to screen share. Hold on. I keep my shit right here. So, and the screen, entire screen, boom. So look, you got Robert Garcia, right? And I want to talk about this because, you know, right now, Ram Muratai he's the new IBF champion. He's a guy that a lot of people are really excited about. You know, he went in there and he beat Andy Cruz, I should say. He beat Andy Cruz, who was a gold medalist. And, not just that, it was the way he beat him. You know, the fact that he was able to get to him early in the early rounds, and he showed a lot of IQ and ring craft and those kind of things. So his stock's at an all-time high. And Robert Garcia has come out and said, look, how about a fight in Southern California between Ram Murataya and Camarón Cepeda, you know, Williams Pera? And I'll tell you this, that's a banger fight. To me, that's a fight that's made for California. You got, of course, as we've seen many times in boxing, Mexican-American versus Puro Mexico. And those fights always do very, very well. And if in terms of styles, that's an intriguing fight because you got Ram Murataya, who's a front foot dominant fighter, who does have some craft, versus a guy who's going to bring the fight right to you. So, you know, I think their styles mesh very, very well. I think that fight would do good business in like the stuff in the Dignity Health Sports Park, the War Grounds, where they've had many, many fun fights over the years. Why not? You know, Williams Pera is a guy that is looking to get back in the fold. He hasn't fought, and we haven't really heard much from Williams Pera since he lost to Shakur Stevenson. So this is a fight that I feel gets him right back into the mix. It gets him right back to potentially getting him a world title shot because. Well, not a world title shot. It gets him a world title, right? It makes him a world champion. And I feel like, you know, based on what we saw with Teofimo Lopez and Shakur, a lot of respect has to be shown to Williams Pera because he was able to win rounds off Shakur. He was able to show some uncomfortable moments from Shakur. And we all know how good of a boxer Shakur Stevenson is. So, you know, his loss has actually aged well in light of the recent Teofimo Lopez fight with Shakur Stevenson. So I would very much welcome this fight. I think it would be a chance for Ram Murataya to fight a volume puncher, an elite volume puncher, because Ram Murataya, he hasn't really – he's fought some good, crafty guys. He fought some guys that had awkward styles, but he's never fought anybody with the elite volume punching, in my opinion, of a guy like Williams Pera. It's hard to replicate and duplicate the elite volume punching style of what Williams Pera brings to the table. So I would very much like this fight, and I would highly advise that if Robert Garcia is serious about getting that fight done, he better speed it up because Albert Bell, who I made a video about recently, Albert Bell has an IBF final eliminator due soon. He's not going to fight Lucas Body, but he'll probably fight like Joe Cordina or something like that. They're going to go down the rankings, and he's going to fight in an IBF eliminator fight. And I think whoever it's against, I think he's going to win, and he's going to be your mandatory. And that's not really a big money fight. So if you want to get this fight, get it done soon because there's going to come a time where we're going to see if Ram Murataya and Robert Garcia will allow Ram Murataya to take the Albert Bell test because a lot of these fighters don't want to take the Albert Bell test. Not Jamel Herring, not Shakur Stevenson, not a lot of guys. So if you're going to do it, I'd say you get it done quickly and swiftly because if not, you know, Albert Bell will come knocking, and inevitably it'll be that time to go ahead and decide what you're going to do. And I could see a scenario. I could see a scenario where you see Ram Murataya, you know, vacating that belt. Just being honest. So we'll see. You already know I'm backing my guys, Peter Howard. We need him back ASAP. Yeah, he's good for boxing. He's a very good volume puncher. He's someone that, like I said, his defeat to Shakur Stevenson has aged very, very well. And okay, I give Ram Murataya his respect. He won a legitimate world title fight that I really enjoyed with Andy Cruz. But like I said, he's an IBF champion, and I love the IBF. You know, the pride and the glory of the IBF has exposed and will continue to expose many a men. They are very much a rules sanctioning body, and their mandatories are oftentimes guys that you don't really want to fight, that don't get you a lot of money, that are hard to beat. And Albert Bell is coming. I think Albert Bell is coming. And I think that there's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made because I think he will become the mandatory challenger at some point in time because he just won't go away. So if you want to make a fight, whether it's with Cepeda or in the case of Rap Machine, who's out here advocating for his fellow Filipino fighters, if you want Mark Maksao to get his shot at the brass ring, if you want Mark Maksao to explore the opportunity to become world champion once again at 135, then you know, go ahead and do that fight. You know, make a fight with somebody happen because, like I said, maybe Mark Maksao winds up fighting Albert Bell because I know he's up there in the rankings too. And if it could be Albert Bell, maybe he becomes mandatory challenger. But either way, whether it's Maksao, whether it's Bell, I do believe that
Ryan Murataya is going to have a very, very difficult mandatory challenger, and there will be a difficult decision to be made one way or the other. So if you want to explore picking William Zepeda as a voluntary defense, I wouldn't waste no time. I would, get on the phone with Golden Promotions and Zanfer and all them guys and see what's what. Yes, but Albert Bell was already ordered to fight in an eliminator fight. You understand? With Lucas Body. Body declined the eliminator. He's going to fight Floyd Schofield for the vacant WBA title. So therefore, Albert Bell is going to fight in the eliminator, and they're going to go down the rankings. So it could be Joe Cordina. It could be Maxayo. We'll see how it goes. I don't care who it is. I think Albert Bell's going to beat either one of them. Joe Cordina will go the WBR with Mason. I think Maxayo and Murataya. Unless Murataya picks him as a voluntary, which he might, because that's an all-action fight. He's a former champion. He has an aggressive Filipino style. He might, but Maxayo might have to fight Arabel, And I ain't no Arabel fan. I didn't just start. I just recently started talking about Arabel in one of my recent lives because at some point fair is fair. Like a guy wins 28 fights, dudes don't want to fight him. You have to give the guy his shot. So I'm going to talk about him a little bit more because I hate when fighters don't get their shot when they earn it. My man Paulie says the IBF is most definitely the most strict when it comes to the fighters having to face the mandatory challenges. They don't care who you are. You're going to have to fall through or vacate. And yeah, and not just that. They don't even care if things happen to you that are out of your control. When the 9 months come up, you got to go ahead and unless you work out a unification deal, you got to fight your mandatory, So to me, the best sanctioning body, the best belt, and arguably the coolest looking belt, because when you see the IBF title in person with the red diamonds, it's pretty nice. I put it up there with the WBC as the nicest looking belt in boxing. But yeah, those are my takes on that. And then my last talking point as we hit the 2-hour mark, make sure you guys smash the like button, subscribe, super chat, all that blase. My last talking point, my last and final talking point, and I know my main man, Ratman, is going to like this because it is Filipino boxing related. Hold on, let me take the timer off. Save. Okay. Oscar Collazo and Melvin Jerusalem, their rematch. It's been a popular subject on this channel because Melvin Jerusalem came out and said that the only reason Oscar Collazo was fighting him in the first place is because Oscar Collazo was ducking Pedro Tajuan. Now, I don't exactly think that they're excited to fight Pedro Tajuan. So, I'm very disappointed in everyone that they're not fighting Pedro Tajuan. My thing is this. So let me go to screen share because this is also very important news in the fight game when you talk about the lighter weight categories because Oscar Collazo, as you guys can see right here, and it's on my main man Talkers' Twitter page. So make sure you guys go follow Talkers at Talkers5 on Twitter. It says right here, right? The road to undisputed has hit a roadblock after Jerusalem and Collazo match for the 14 has been postponed. I doubt the undisputed match is happening, right? So, that being said, they're not fighting next. Collazo, I think, has a tough decision to make because, of course, he could just postpone this fight and wait, and they might do that. But he's been at 105 pounds his whole career, and you're a pound fighter now, and there's big fights at 108 pounds for him. I mean, you got Rene Santiago, who's a fellow Boricua, fellow Puerto Rican. That's a potential Puerto Rican super fight where you could get Rene Santiago versus Oscar Collazo, and a chance for Oscar Collazo to become a unified champion, a 2-division champion. And see, if you beat a guy like Rene Santiago, now you're strengthening your pound-for-pound case. So that's a lucrative fight. And I think the question that has to be asked from the Oscar Collazo side of things is Oscar Collazo, is it now that time in his career to make that move to 108 pounds? Because look, even if you don't fight Rene Santiago, you look at his career from a business standpoint, a monetary standpoint, a money standpoint. We all know when you start talking about the weight classes like featherweight on down, featherweight, super bantamweight, super flyweight, light fly, and minimum. when you want to make money, when you want to get that paper, when you want to really get paid and change your family's life, the money is not in America. It's not in Europe. It's not anywhere else but Japan. So if you can fight top Japanese fighters at 108 pounds, the money is there for you. And when you look at the 108-pound division, it's littered with Japanese fighters like Shokichi Iwata, Masataka Taniguchi, who's fighting Santiago next. You got Dai Akira, who's a dangerous, a very exciting fighter, top contender. You got Yugo Osaki. You guys know what I think about Yuga, right? He's there as well. I think he'll beat Renee if they fight, and they're promoted by the same guy. But I digress. There's plenty of Japanese fighters there for him, along with Renee Santiago. And you got Mexican fighters. You got guys like Eric Badillo. You got Sergio Mendoza Cordova, who's slated to fight for a world title. So when you factor in a potential Puerto Rican, super fight, if you will, with Renee Santiago, the chance for pound-for-pound greatness in that fight, all the Japanese fighters that could offer him big money for fights over there. Because you got to remember, Renee Santiago, Oscar Collazo is promoted by Oscar De La Hoya and Miguel Cotto Promotions, right? But the majority of fighters in and around this weight class are promoted by Mr. Honda and Tuto and Clovis Sabala in All-Star Boxing, right? So if you want to get big money fights, you're going to have to work with All-Star Boxing in conjunction with Mr. Honda. And, from 105 to 112, All-Star Boxing has guys like Yugo Osaki, Anthony Olasquaga, Renee Santiago, Shikichi Iwata, and a truckload of other names. So I'm saying all this to say that I understand there's good fights for there for Collazo at 105 pounds, but if the road to undisputed is going to be held up, I don't think Golden Boy Promotions and Miguel Cotto Promotions, I don't think they're in a rush to fight Pedro Tajuan. I don't. I know Pedro Tajuan is fighting in April in California, but I don't think there's a rush to fight him. He's dangerous southpaw. He punches very, very hard. And you would make more money fighting Renee Santiago and or any of the Japanese fighters and or any of the potential Mexican fighters like Sergio Mendoza and Eric Badillo. So those are the options when I evaluate the chessboard for Oscar Collazo. And personally, for me, if I was in a manager position for Oscar Collazo, I'm going to 108 pounds. I'm going up there, and I want to see how good my guy is because he's already done great things at 108. He beat Melvin Jerusalem. He beat knockdown CB Freshmart. You don't really know how much longer he can make the weight, and you don't want to take those chances for too long because fighters outgrow weight classes fast. So I like the Renee Santiago fight on the island of Puerto Rico. I like the Japanese fights with Iwata and potentially Taniguchi, Osaki, Dai Akira. I like potential Mexico-Puerto Rico fights versus the likes of Sergio Mendoza Cordova and Eric Badillo. There are so many options for Oscar Collazo, right? And we'll give the correct pronunciation. Oscar Collazo, right? There's so many so many fights out there for him at 108 pounds. It makes too much sense. So let's not waste time because let's not act like people really wanted to see the Melvin Jerusalem fight. They didn't. They would rather see him fight Pedro Tajuan and or move up and go to 108 pounds and fight Renee Santiago. You understand? My man Rap Machine says the Cotto Jerusalem fight has been rescheduled for June or July of 2026. I mean, I don't really want to see it, to be honest. I really don't want to see it. I'd rather him just go to 108 pounds because I don't think they want to fight Pedro. I don't think Golden Boy want to make that fight. I don't think Miguel Cotto Promotions want to make that fight. I don't think they want to make that fight. He's tall. He's rangy. He punches hard with both hands. He's not a big name. There's so many better, more marketable fights at 108 pounds. But I'll tell you this. I will give Oscar Collazo all the credit in the world. If he goes up to if he sticks to this 105-pound division and he beats up Melvin Jerusalem and he beats up on Pedro Tajuan, if he just fights Pedro Tajuan, all I can do is give him respect. As Puerto Ricans, we got to create a better market for Collazo and Juanita soon. I feel like Juanito's gonna be okay. He's the son of a champion. He's got Top Rank behind him. He's got All-Star Boxing with a hand in his career as well. I don't think Juanita is a guy that's gonna struggle to get fights. I feel like Juanita's a big puncher. I like Juanita. He's a big puncher. He's also let me correct myself. He's also managed by the same guy that manages Xander, which is Peter Khan, right? Shout out to Peter Khan, friend of the show, friend of the program. Juanita is not a guy that I feel is going to struggle to get big fights. Juanita Lopez is a guy that I think he's going to be a fun fighter. I think he's a solid fighter. I don't view him on the same level, skill for skill, of a guy like Collazo or Rene Santiago. I think he can sell more tickets. I think he's a bigger puncher. But if we're talking about skills and who's better, I don't think his ceiling's on the level of a guy like Oscar Collazo, if I'm being honest. And I think, honestly, because of who his dad is and the potential he has to be a ticket seller, they're going to be a bit careful with him, right? Because he already had a scare. Juanita already had a scare in Puerto Rico. He fought a kid named Edward Quiones. Edward Quiones in his second or third pro fight. And Quiones was a good Puerto Rican fighter. I believe he's a Puerto Rican national amateur champion. Very close fight. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. And it's a very hard fight to find on the internet. I found it a while ago. I thought he lost that fight. I think it was like a 4-round fight. He got dropped in that fight. I thought he lost that fight, but they gave it to him. So, I mean, that being said, he's a guy that they're building into a ticket seller. I think he'll be okay. Oscar Collazo, I feel, has a tougher challenge ahead of him because he fights at 105 pounds. Shout out to Johnny. He says, I really need you right now, bro. Okay, I'll be up live in 20 minutes, Johnny. I'm going to go. I promise the viewers 2.5 hours. I'm at 2 hours and 10 minutes. So let me finish my live, and I will give you a phone call. But shout out to one of my best friends in the world, the pride and joy of all of Las Vegas, and definitely one of the most integral and important parts of Team Angelo Leo, Johnny Cortillo. Shout out to him in the chat. My man says, what does Rick Laser see in Collazo? I don't see it, man. He's a great fighter, but he ain't elite. I disagree with that. I think Oscar Collazo is an elite fighter. I think he's an amazing fighter. I just don't think he's top 10 pound for pound right now. I think he's teetering. I think he's on his way. I think he's like in that top 15 range, top 15, but not top 10. You got to really to me, he's got to either beat Pedro Tajuron or he has to go to 108 and beat Rene Santiago and become like the guy of the division, something like that. Right now, he hasn't done enough for me. But like I said, I give him his respect. Very smart fighter, counter puncher, can punch with both hands. He's just not there yet, Yeah, I mean, like even I mentioned one fight for Oscar Collazo that I think he should look into taking at some point would be maybe him and Anthony Olascuaga and him as a fight I think could get done at 112 pounds. Like I said, if you want to get big money in the fight game in the lower weight categories, you're gonna have to go to Japan. And for a lot of guys, you're gonna have to work with the Sabalas and All Star Boxing in conjunction with Mr. Honda, right? And they control a lot of the low weight categories. They have Rene Santiago, they have Anthony Olascuaga, they have Yugo Osaki, they have Shokichi Iwata, and a whole host of other Japanese fighters. So, I think it's a very doable fight. Yes. Olascuaga is he trains with Rudy Hernandez. That is correct. Do I think Devin Haney is a pound-for-pound talent? Yes, I do. I'm not the biggest fan of him, to be honest with you. I'm not, but I can separate my feelings. He's a pound-for-pound talent. You don't win a world title at 130, 140, 47 being a bum. I don't care if you think he didn't fight this guy or didn't fight that guy. Nah, man. This is a hard sport to make it in. So I give him this due. He's been on the pound-for-pound list multiple times. And see, look, I give Devin Haney his credit because I know they wiped the loss off his record, but he got his ass beat by Ryan Garcia, and he was put in a very demoralized position in his career and in his life. And he's shown the world that he can come back and rebound better. So to me, when a guy loses a fight, when he gets his back put against the wall, and he gets put in that position mentally and responds and wins a big fight like he did against Brian Pillman Jr., you got to tip your cap to that, and you got to give him his just due, even if you don't like him. That's just the truth of it. But yeah, guys, I pretty much I've zoomed through all my talking points. So I got 18 minutes left. I'm gonna go 2.5 hours, and then I'm gonna dip, and then yeah, I'll enjoy the rest of my night. But yeah, guys, smash that like button. Definitely definitely go ahead and you know, get your comments and your questions in. We're gonna boot this guy out of here because you know you're not gonna come in my chat and talk sideways to me. So be respectful because some of you won't get a second chance. So I'm gonna block some of you guys. Do you think Haney's performance was good after the knockdown to Norman? Not really, honestly. If I want to be honest, no. But he did enough to win the fight. I thought Norman made decent adjustments and was able to win some rounds. But he needs more experience. You know, I think he needs more experience. You know, their corner could have did a better job preparing him for that fight. But you know, it's all part and parcel of the game. I'm not gonna down Norman for losing the fight. When two top fighters step up to the plate and they fight and they get the fans fight they want to see, and one guy loses, you can't down him for that. So we'll see how he responds. Devin Haney showed us how great he was by how he responded to a loss. Now it's Brian Norman's turn. Do you think T.O. beats Norman? It's a very good question. Right now, I would favor Brian Norman Jr. in that fight. Not by much, but I would favor him. Do you think Gaio should retire or face tension? I think he should retire. I didn't like what I saw when he fought Bam. And actually, if he stays and he beats Gaio, I actually think that's worse because there's some guys up there in the bantamweight division that might beat the brakes off him even worse. So I don't like him as a bantamweight. When he fought Bam, if you go back and you watch that fight and you watch the early rounds, Gaio didn't have a good base. He didn't have good legs under him. And to me, it's like when I look at that fight, it's like he was able to drop Bam despite the fact that he didn't have a good base, that he was a complete shell of himself. So yeah, I would rather Gaio hang it up. Gaio was a great fighter. He's had a magnificent career. I think in my eyes, he's a Hall of Famer. He's been one of the best fighters from Mexico over the last 10 to 15 years. To me, he's got nothing to prove. But, you know, obviously he feels like he does. So if he beats Tension, obviously it's a great win. And Tension proved in his last fight that, you know, he's got things that can be exploited. So it's a cool fight. It's a name. Why do you ignore comments that don't agree with your narrative? I acknowledge plenty of comments that disagree with my narrative. What I'm not going to do, though, in 2026, what we're not going to do is I'm not going to acknowledge comments that are disrespectful. Because one thing I'm not going to do is have you guys get me out of character and get me to bring out the disrespectful part of myself. I'm not trying to do that. So if you get overly disrespectful and I just don't like what you say, I'm just going to block you. Like, there's not going to be a warning or anything. So that's what it is. And it's my channel. It's my channel. If you don't like it, there's 15 gajillion other channels. You can go watch what they got to say. You was all up on Tension, but hate on Bam so much. Leo is food. I'm sure you're going to skip it too. I mean, if he was food, it'd be great if one of the other featherweights would actually step to the table and make the fucking fights happen. But, you know, a lot of your guys at featherweights don't really want to fight. They be out here turning fights. They don't really want to fight, you know. So it's okay. When one of them gets sent to the emergency room, like Venado did, then I'll be here to talk about it. No. I don't know if it was you, but you was being disrespectful. You made a comment about on his nuts and things like that. Like I'm not going for that this year. So like I said, I've said what I needed to say. If I just don't like what you say, I'm just gonna block you. I'm not gonna go ahead and go back and forth. And if you feel like he's the Mario Barrios of the division, I mean, that's your opinion. Mario Barrios never had the knockout of the year. Mario Barrios never beat the number one guy in his division. Mario Barrios can't box. Mario Barrios can't counterpunch. Mario Barrios Mario Barrios has not had 1/100th of the tough road Angelo Leo has had. So I mean, it's your opinion. You're very wrong, but you know, I look forward to you being, you know, to your opinions, agent like milk. I'll be real. It ain't Leo's fault. They need to unify. They just hung up on Inoue because he's the draw. Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm not trying to make this about. See, you guys bringing up Angelo's name. I'm not even bringing his name up. Now I'll talk about him because you guys are bringing him up because I do like talking about him. But as far as Inoue things concerned, like, look, in this division, I'm not a fool. Espinoza's the money man. He's the A side. Why don't people get on Espinoza to really call for these fights? Like, Angelo's not in the power position. Gary Jonas and Pro Box, they don't really believe in him enough to make an investment in him like they need to. He hasn't fought in America once since he won the title against Kameda, and that's not his fault because before he won the title against Venado, he was the most active championship level fighter in boxing. He fought 4 times in 9 months. You guys can't name me no more than probably one fighter in the last 2 years that's fought 4 times in 9 months. So that's what it is. And then all of a sudden he can't get fights, you know. But then you guys over here calling Espinoza this big bad killer, right? But you're okay with him fighting Arnold K guy, a can. Arnold K guy is a can, like a straight can. And I'm sorry if it's disrespectful, but it's just the truth. Arnold K guy at the top level, he's tough, he's durable, he's brave. I respect that about him, but his skills are not up to par with the Leos, the Espinosas, even the Figueroas, the Carrington, he's not on that level, but you guys are okay with Espinoza fighting him. You know, so it is what it is. They don't press Espinoza to fight the other guys. You guys just accept that he's a killer and he can fight Arnold K guy. So it's okay. His day's coming because he's been dropped by, listen, y'all be thinking you know about these fighters and you don't really be knowing about these fighters. Like I've done my homework on Espinoza. He's been out here dropped by Espinoza's been dropped by cans, guys. Like, I'm talking about some journeymen. Like, I like Espinoza, but he's a good action fighter, and I'm happy he's champion, and he's made money, and he's good for Mexican boxing. But, like, there's a reason why he's fighting Arnold K guy and Sergio Trino Sanchez, because he's not like that. And his handlers don't think he's like that because he got put on his ass by Carlos Ornelas. You guys probably like, BT, who's Carlos Ornelas? Go look it up. My man said, I know a factory that Boston know the Leo for August last year on the Utama White show. See, I'm not even saying that. And what I'll say is this: I spoke to the lawyer of Queensberry at the WBA convention, and I asked him for the unification fight, and he said no. Pretty much, he gave me a very non-committal answer. So it is what it is. Like, you can have your opinions, but in the fight game, in the fight industry, the promoters and handlers know what's what. So you can't tell me nothing. Why did all these boxing channels start off the year on hating Asian fighters? The ring is downgrading in a way. Look, I can't speak for no other channels. That's their prerogative. I can only speak for True School Sports and Brendan. All I can say is in regards to Inoue, anybody who doesn't have Naoya Inoue as one of the best 5 fighters in the world shouldn't fucking watch boxing. Like, that's just where I'm at. Leo has skills. He's just not exciting. It's either your personality sells or your skills do. I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, I never see him in a bad fight. He knocked people out with one punch. He sent people to the emergency room. So I mean, I don't know what more you want. He had the 3rd most punches thrown in a super bantamweight title fight with Stephen Fulton. You know, I don't know what you want, but it's your opinion. Rafael Espinoza is going to be an easy fight for Angelo. You guys are going to see. He's going to be an easy fight. He can't fuck with Angelo. And you're going to see. You're going to see why he didn't want to fight Angelo and why he got dropped by Carlos Ornelas and why he ducked Venado Lopez, because Venado Lopez was offered the fight with him and Venado took the fight and they didn't want the fight. Would Shushu fight Leo? I mean, I believe in due time he will, not right away. But I told Shushu. I told Shushu last April when Shushu was going on these rants, when Bruce Carrington was going on all these rants on Instagram talking about all these guys didn't want to fight him, I got in his DMs and I told him, I said, hey, I don't know who's ducking you. I don't know who, who you're speaking about exactly, but I know who's not ducking you. And I told him, Angel Leo is not ducking you because he wasn't even ranked in the IBF, so he couldn't duck Shushu. And I told Shushu, I said, look, Shushu, this is I told Shushu in April of last year, I said, this is what's going to happen. You're going to fight for a vacant title in 2026. As soon as you win the title, if you want to unify Angel, it'll be there. So, depends on how bad he wants it. Listen, I'm not delusional. Angelo's not the one with the say so in this division. He's not. He don't got Top Rank behind him. He don't got he doesn't have Top Rank or Frank Warren or even the PBC behind him. Like, so it is what it is. But it's all good. The tough road makes you stronger. I mean, the Rais Salim purse bid is in 2 days. I think Rais Salim is a much tougher fight than some of these guys that have the belt, to be honest with you. Rais Salim's a very, very good fighter. Stephen Fulton wasn't running to fight him. Merjan wasn't running to fight him. He went and he beat up on Nikita Nakano out there in Japan. It was one of the hardest punches of the division. And he could have probably got a decision against Sam Goodman. So, I mean, get through him and what can you say? He's a good fighter. I know it's not that I'm not being realistic. I just know Espinosa better than you do. That's all. I'm not saying Espinosa is good. Like, Espinosa is a good fighter, and I respect him for becoming a world champion. And Xander Promotions and Top Rank have done an amazing job of making him a big name. But there's a reason why he's picking why he's picking guys that all have the same traits. You're gonna see. Time will be the best revealer of all. You're gonna see. If not unification next, who would Shushu fight next? Segawa rematch would be cool, but I doubt it happens. I'll tell you this. I would like to see him fight Ray Vargas, the WBC champion in recess, because I'm gonna tell you this. I'd rather him get it out the way now than when it's time to make a unification fight. Then Ray Vargas comes out of nowhere over the top rope like it's the Royal Rumble. And then now he gets a title shot out of nowhere because the WBC was on some bullshit and made the champion in recess. So I would like that fight. He's a long fighter, rangy, can box, multiple-time world champion. Probably would easily be the best fighter on his resume. Do that fight if Ray Vargas gets cleared to box. If not that, then pick someone from the top 15 and do a fight in Brooklyn or Madison Square Garden, wherever you want. For your voluntary. Your eyes is telling me your soul Alim is higher risk and extremely low reward. I mean, he is. I mean, you're that's the obvious. You're stating the obvious. Like, Rais Salim, he's going to be one of those guys that, God willing, because I want to stay humble. I don't want to be cocky or disrespect no one, but God willing, if Angelo does what he's supposed to do, he's going to beat him and people, and I don't think people are going to give him his credit. They're just going to say Rais Salim wasn't that good. But, like, it's funny because heading into the fight, everyone's saying Rais Salim is this and he's that. So, I know how boxing is. But I respect Rais Salim. I think I actually think he's one of the top contenders out there, and I have an immense amount of respect for him. And I think it's one of the toughest fights you could possibly take out there of the non-champions. So, I give him his respect. Shushu will fight, oh my God, the Nathaniel Collins crystal ball. Oh my Lord. Well, you said it, not me, champ. You said it, not me. Nathaniel Collins, good little fighter. I give Shushu a great chance of beating Inoue. I mean, he could. He's rangy. He's explosive. I don't think he will, to be honest, but it gets to a point where no matter how good you think a fighter is, size can play a part. So I think at featherweight, that's one of the top events. Maybe not fights, but events. Like, Inoue coming to the Garden against Kevin Kelly's or against Bruce Carrington is like kind of like Naseem Ahmed against Kevin Kelly. What did my man Lance Myers said? He said, "Hey BT, why does BT look slightly like an anime character? I don't know, man. Maybe I gotta get a haircut soon. I gotta go to when I go to Vegas on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, I gotta go get a haircut. I haven't got a haircut since Matthias Dalton Smith. So, it's been a while. It's been about a month. So I got to go ahead and handle that. We can't be out here looking all scruffy, but, that's probably what it is. They say normally when I'm in Japan and I'm eating all that Japanese food, I start looking Japanese. So maybe that's it too. It's the residue of that. I wish Leo luck for your sake, BT. Wait. I appreciate it. I'm going to camp on Monday. So, looking very, very forward to it. Hot take, I think all the 126 champions have a strong chance beating away. The 126 guys are too big for him. I would say that. I would say that I don't know. They all present unique challenges. Obviously, you look at Espinoza and Figueroa, those are both tall guys that are volume punchers, right? So that right there is a very tough challenge. Angel Leo's a very well-rounded fighter who could also be a volume puncher and a counter puncher. And then Bruce Carrington, explosive, mid-range, athletic, twitchy counter puncher. So a lot of things to work out. A lot of interesting fights. And I'm, obviously Inoue's got to get through Junto, but we're gonna see if if he does that, like many of us expect, we're gonna see if he makes the jump, because there's always that possibility. Maybe he does make that jump. Maybe if the fight's close enough, maybe they do a rematch. Maybe they find someone else. You don't know. Boxing's always changing. Boxing's always fluid, and things could always change on the top of a dime. So we'll see how it goes. But guys, look, on that note, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna put the final touch on the live, because we're at the 2.5 hour mark, and I promise you guys 2.5 hours, and I gotta make an important phone call apparently. So guys, take care. I don't think I'll be live tomorrow. Maybe Monday in the daytime, because I gotta fly out in the evening. So maybe Monday in the daytime. If not Monday in the daytime, then I'll be live Tuesday night, because I'll be in Vegas on Monday. I'll get the late Monday night. I'll be getting there. My first full day will be there Tuesday. So that being said, I'm not covering the fight no more. I'm not going to be covering Ryan Garcia Barrios, because they denied your boy, which I ain't really mad about, because that means I can just go straight into camp with Angelo for the Aleem fight or whatever. So I'm excited about that, and things are going to get really fun on this channel. So you guys take care. God bless. Thank you guys for tuning in and all the support, and plenty of content coming out here on True School Sports. Make sure you guys continue to support the channel as we are growing slowly and steadily. And I'll make sure I see you guys on the next live. God bless and take care.